Okay, so we are live. Good evening and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Sparta Township Planning Board. Thank you to those joining us here and online. For the record, this meeting is being held on October 1st, 2025 at 7:03 PM in the Sparta Township Municipal Building located at 65 Main Street, Sparta, New Jersey, and the live stream can be viewed on YouTube at www.youtube.com/@SpartaTWP. Please note that adequate public notice of this meeting was given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. No new business will be conducted after 9:30 PM, and the meeting will end at 10 PM. Let's begin with a salute to our flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dory, would you please call the roll?
Nat Burke.
Here.
Ernie Reichstad.
Here.
Brian Zimmerman. Ron Day.
Here.
Chairwoman Celeste Luciano.
Here.
Vice Chairman Robert Otto.
Here.
Councilman Mark Scott. Birgit Bogler.
Here.
Christine Dunbar.
Here.
And Joan Furman.
Here.
Okay, great. We're going to move into the approval of minutes. We had tabled two sets of minutes from our last meeting, June 7th, 2023, and July 16th, 2025. For the June 7th minutes for 2023, eligible to vote are Jeanette Burke, Ron Day, Christine Dunbar, Celeste Luciano, and Ernie Ragstad. I will open it to the board. Any questions or comments regarding these minutes?
On here.
Okay, hearing none, we'll bring it to a vote.
I'll
make a motion.
Oh,
Go ahead, Ernie.
I'll make a motion
I'll
to,
second. Nat Burke.
Yes.
Ron Day.
Yes.
Christine Dunbar.
Yes.
Celeste Luciano.
Yes.
And Ernie Reichstad.
yes,
Okay, moving on to our minutes for July 16th, 2025. Eligible to vote are Jeanette Burke, Ernie Ragstad, Brian Zimmerman, Ron Day, Joan Furman, Mark Scott, Robert Otto, Celeste Luciano, and Christine Dunbar. Open to the board. Any questions or comments regarding these minutes? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
I'd like to move to accept the minutes, please.
I'll second. Jeanette Burke.
Yes.
Ernie Reichstad.
yes,
Ron Day.
Yes.
Joan Furman.
Yes.
Robert Otto.
yes,
Celeste Luciano.
Yes.
And Christine Dunbar.
Yes.
Okay.
This is not pertaining to the minutes. The minutes are accurate, but I know in here, I think it was in these that I had asked about the bylaws that were posted as a draft online, and I had asked them to be taken down. Have they been taken down?
I'll have to double check. I don't know.
Thank
I'll
you.
have to look. Thank you.
Okay, we're now moving into our public hearing. That's PB number 25-736, Sparta Smoke Shop and Mediterranean Cuisine, 514 Lafayette Road, Block 12008, Lot 17, PCED Zone, formerly minor site plan. This was carried from, what was the date, Dory?
3rd, September 3rd.
Thank you.
Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Daniel Benkendorf from the law firm of Askin and Hooker, representing the applicant this evening, 514 Lafayette Road, LLC. Dr. Mary Jean Negri is here as a managing member of the LLC. Also, Alan Campbell. I'd like to have them sworn in, and Alan can be classified as an expert in engineering.
You solemnly swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
And your professional address, please.
Yes, and for the records, Alan Campbell, A-L-L-E-N.
If you wouldn't mind using the microphone, please, for the people at home.
C-A-M-P-B-E-L-L. I'm a licensed professional engineer. My firm is Robert Campbell Associates, located at 9 Cook Road, Branchville, New Jersey.
Mr. Campbell,
I've
you've been accepted as an expert before this board many
I've
times.
been qualified as an expert before this board over the past 30-plus years, and my license are in still good standing with the state.
I'd recommend Mr. Campbell as an expert in the area of professional engineering.
So accepted.
Right hand. Mr. Porto, if you'll swear in my client, please.
I'm sorry.
Hi there.
I solemnly swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Name and address, business address for record, please. I know you testified at the prior hearing, but just for the record.
Mary Jean Negri, 23 Route 15, Lafayette, New Jersey, 07848.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone. We're here to discuss 514 Lafayette Road, block 12008, lot 17. It's a 1.753 acre lot in the planned commercial economic development zone. It's currently developed with 3 separate buildings and 2 ancillary sheds. All uses on the property currently are permitted uses, and they've all been approved and seen before the board in one way or another. So the applicant is before the board this evening by application for a minor site plan approval. Essentially, what we're looking to do is take 2 tenants from one of the buildings, both in the same building, and we're swapping them out for 2 new tenants. Now, Megan Ward was the original attorney for this application. Megan was unable to appear before the board at the last hearing, so Frank McGovern filled in for her. And since that time, she's decided to pass the torch to me. She did provide a very adequate background of this property, showing all of the previous resolutions, sign information, and a number of other things. Unfortunately, at the last hearing, there were still a lot of questions that the board had that couldn't be answered. Now, whether or not that has to do with the fact that Ms. Ward couldn't be here and Frank had to step in, I don't know. But we're here this evening to try to answer all of those questions. I know some of the primary concerns were parking, septic, the signs. There were some questions about ingress, egress, and additionally, there were some questions about lighting. So I'm just going to kind of go through everything that I can, and then I'm going to pass it over to Alan, who has a very intimate connection with this property because he was part of the initial design back in the 90s. So he'll be able to talk to you guys with a lot of knowledge on this property. So I'd like to start off by explaining there are 3 separate buildings, and Alan's going to go through this, but I just want to make it very clear so everybody gets it. There's building A, B, and C. That's how they're going to be demonstrated. That's how they've been offered to the board through exhibits that have already been submitted. Building A is the restaurant, it is the smoke shop, and it is the massage studio. Building B is physical therapy. It is the owner-occupied unit, which Alan will get into this evening, and it is the medical transport offices. And then there's Building C, which is a repurposed, single-family, residential-looking building, but it's been repurposed for commercial use. And again, all the uses, all the buildings variances were obtained for these buildings prior to tonight's meeting and previous applications. So without further ado, I'd like to let Alan take it from here and go through the layout of this property. Alan?
Yes, good evening and thank you. What I want to refer to on the easel is the plan that's been submitted to the board. It is titled Facilities Plan, Lot 17 and Block 12008, 514 Lafayette Road, LLC. Has an original date of September 2025. It's prepared by myself in our office, and it has a revision date of 9/24/2025. Again, this is the plan as it's submitted to the board, so I don't believe at this time it needs to be identified as an exhibit.
Just, why don't we mark it A1 just for the sake, if you don't mind?
By all means.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Have a A1,
Please. With today's,
10/1/25.
yes.
And what I just described on the easel is now identified as A1, 10/1/25.
Thank you.
And so this plan was originally developed in a preliminary stage as a planning tool for Dr. Mary in order for her to manage the site and facility. So as we now use it to demonstrate a change in tenant and occupancy, which is the objective tonight, i.e. a restaurant owner of one type going to a restaurant operator of another type, and what was previously a computer urgent care facility, i.e. computer store and computer guru type of person to address the computer needs, that particular store is going to a smoke shop. So as we look at the site this lot 17. As it's been seen by all board members over the past many years, back in the mid-90s, this site first had a restaurant open as Paparoni's. And since from the mid-90s, my first involvement with this property, somewhere's 95 thereabouts, was working with Mr. Negri, Frank Negri, and dealing with certain aspects when he had site improvements that were brought before the board over history. And we must have been back and forth before the zoning board from the mid-90s till up until about 5 or 6 years ago when the zone changed, at which time we had numerous site plans over the history of this property. I note that we have an entrance and exit coming off of 15, which had predated any of the current road configurations that are on Route 15. Initially, it was a center lines, typical double yellow with breaks in it for what is an access drive. This access drive facilitates access to the property to the north, Lot 16, formerly known as the Ammergraff property. It also goes to the rear of the property and services the Lot 18 property, which was known as the Wilson Complex, as Mr. Wilson had developed this and had a site plan back some 10 or 15 years ago that we had done. Ultimately, this driveway had a bigger plan with a future type of expansion into the circulation of the area, which is not necessarily an issue for tonight unless there's reasons to go further into that dialogue. But surrounding the property then, you had the Lot 16 identified that used the same driveway on the restaurant north end of the property. The property to the rear, which are predominantly tradesman units for rental purposes, Lot 18. And then to the south, which was known as I referred to it as the west southern portion of the Sanford Farm over the years. And that is also portion of what was the parent tract, Lot 19, which is to the south of the property. These properties are currently the agricultural fields and open space that you see when you look at the restaurant from Route 15 looking forward. That gives you a good description of the northerly portion where that driveway comes in, has various circulation patterns, parking stalls. It has parking directly in front of the restaurant. It has parking directly behind the restaurant, and then the parking lot to the rear, which is shared by all parties of the complex. There's also a loading zone for the restaurant that goes through that main access way, through the parking lot, backs up to the walk-in freezers, services delivery to the restaurant, and then pulls out and comes out through to the primary access corridor. On the southerly portion of the property, the driveway that comes into the former home location, which is the house on the left, that was a residential house that some 10 to 15 years ago was approved by the board to become a real estate office, and since additionally approved as a general office. And I emphasize the real estate office because in the day when we got the real estate approval, there were different parking requirements for real estate offices versus general office space. And a real estate office was required to have more parking space than a standard office would. On the north side of that access corridor coming in, you have various parking stalls for the urgent care and or the units in the back or the building. All this parking is interchangeable with the exception of a few selective designated parking stalls, which we can get into detail if necessary, but put it that certain aspects of the parking lot lend itself to certain tenants, and therefore those certain tenants have signs reserving a space for themselves. As we come in that property, there's parking stalls to the right. There's a parking field to the back left, i.e. the southerly side. And these parking stalls service all of the tenant space as well as portion of the lot for the restaurant servicing the tenant space. The primary aspects that I've been asked to address in conjunction with this application for a change in occupancy was first the septic for the restaurant. The septic for the restaurant, I believe there was a document that I reviewed via Zoom or the YouTube hearing, and there was a discussion regarding a correspondence from the health department. I believe that correspondence from the health department was incorrect in that it did not and was not identifying the components at this site. The septic for the restaurant is fully independent of all other facilities on this property. The design was done in the early 90s, and it was designed that provided for up to 60 seats and 3 turnovers in the restaurant. I believe that the comment from the health department was clarified since that time, and I want to put on the record, though, 52-seat restaurant being less than the 60 that it was originally designed for. It was designed post-90s, so it's in more or less the current code, and There's been no evidence of the septic having any current malfunction, as it has been vacant for so long. And needless to say, when the septic is put into use, it will be monitored, and the maintenance and everything else that goes along with care of a septic for a restaurant will be taken into play. One other comment about the restaurant septic system: it was initially designed to have a reserve area, as Sparta Township had previously required in their health ordinance. Sometime maybe 15, 20 years ago, I put it in my response regarding the septic. I was involved with the construction of a duplicate field. So this septic system that was built in the 90s also had an upgrade and a completely identical duplicate field put in the rear of the property, which was in accordance with the plans from the original 90s. That septic alteration or a duplication of the field area was regulated through the Sparta Township Health Department at the time. It was oversaw by myself when it was being constructed, and I recall that Mr. Wilson Excavating, was the contractor that did the septic field, which now the septic system has 2 fields, which can be switched back and forth if there's ever a need to. That, I believe, covered the septic issue, and I don't know if there's anything more that needs to be put on the record regarding that.
Just quickly, from my own knowledge, so the local health department signs off on it. Is that subject to any county or state regulations? How do they mesh?
So back, I don't recall exactly the date, perhaps 8 to 10 years ago, you have the state septic regulation, which controls the entire state. Municipalities may be more stringent in their regulations and adopt ordinance within the health department to be more stringent, but not less than the state requirements. Sparta Township at the time was their own health agent. So the authorized agent to implement the septic code for the state was Sparta Township Health Department. Sometime 10, 12 years ago, I'm not exactly sure of the date, Sparta Township Health Department no longer existed, and many of those members went to the county health department, and Sparta Township currently has Sussex County Health Department as their authorized agent for the regulation and the overview of septics. This was when Sparta Township was the authorized agent. Ralph Diers was the boss of the health department. Lee Daly was out for the inspections, and Denise Webb, I believe, was also involved at the time. Renamed Sparta Health Department. I guess that gives you the history of where Sparta used to regulate their own septic systems, as opposed to the county. Does that
Thank you.
clarify your answer?
Thank you.
Very good. The next issue was
Actually, I
regarding
have
this-
if, let's just stay on the septic for a second.
Certainly.
How many gallons is the restaurant septic designed for? You said 60 seats, but how many gallons is that?
There's a design volume of 1,890 gallons a day.
And how long has the restaurant been vacant?
I believe coming into October, it's almost a year.
Who is responsible for pumping the septic? Is it the restaurant or is it the owner of the property?
I don't know the terms of the lease contract for the restaurant. I do know in past times, Dr. Negri, Mary Negri, had reached out to me when she was signing contracts in the past, and I believe at those times, the contract was specifically on the owner of the property, the landlord, and yet there was some arrangement in the lease. Currently, either way, the owner, the landlord, is going to be a conscious person making sure that it takes place, because it's her physical property that's being compromised if it's not maintained properly. The grease tanks are pumped separately than the septic tanks. If there's a preference to the municipality, I would have to defer to council and the owner as to how the lease agreement would be structured if there was a preference of the board.
Okay, I'm not sure if you know the answer to this or if Dr. Negri would, but do you know when the septic was last pumped?
No, I don't, but we can certainly get pumping records and provide those.
Okay,
And my recommendation will be that before the tenant moves in, to have the septic tanks, if they have not recently been pumped since the vacancy, to have them pumped and inspected for their integrity.
thank you.
Please continue.
Very good. The second item I was asked to more or less document, for lack of better description, is that of the parking of the site. I make comment to the circulation in the parking bays throughout, and something I would like to emphasize is we have numerous parking locations spread throughout the property, and because of that, we also have numerous handicap stalls, including in the overall handicap parking count versus the required parking count. So if this was one single bay, we might be required to have one parking for handicap accessible, which being a van space. In the current configuration, as you come in the entryway, the parking lot directly in front of the restaurant to the left has 3 stalls, including 1 van-ready stall. These stalls during COVID had some alterations done to them that have been since corrected, and those stalls are now back to conforming stall size with an 8 and an 8 for the handicap space. And the patio that was built during COVID has been removed and the original curb exposed, and these parking stalls are back to their original condition as what they've been in since the restaurant was first built. Additionally, as we go in the southern entrance and we go to the west, on the right-hand side, up against Building B, there's again another handicap stall with a fully conforming. And then as we go to the south, the former house, former real estate office, has again another handicap stall fully conforming and access for the handicap ramp. So there's actually 3 handicap parking stalls throughout this parking complex, and all of them have ready access to the facilities that are requiring them to be serviceable. In addition to that, then we have a combination of standardized parking stalls, 10 and 20s, a mix of 9 and 18s, being 9 foot by 18 foot in some cases, 10 foot by 20 foot in various, so there's a variation of different sizes throughout the whole complex. The complex also has designated loading zones, which restricts the parking so that when you have a UPS truck showing up and the like, it's not an issue clogging up the parking lot and/or obstructing the egress. The overall parking is 50 parking spaces that are shown on the plan and are available on the site. Included in that 50 parking spaces are 3 stacked spaces. I emphasized the real estate office and how the real estate office required additional parking. At that time, we were approved to provide 3 stacked parking, which is more or less dead center on this property in the lot coming in from the south entrance. And these stacked parking spaces are in a configuration that do not obstruct the circulation or corridor ways of the rest of the parking. So in this particular layout that has been in use for an excess of 10 years plus, there are 3 stacked parking stalls that are included in that 50 numbers of 50 parking spaces. The task of defining the uses and defining the required parking spaces, we then took portions of architectural plans that had been done by Mr. Schaefer, Charles Schaefer's office, and with permission of Mr. Schaefer, I was using them as exhibits in order to regulate the way the tenant spaces are used in order to identify what tenant is in what location and how many parking spaces that tenant needs. With that type of tool, the landlord can manage the tenant spaces, and if a tenant use is in necessity of more parking than what the ordinance would call for, we bring that to the board's attention tonight, and we also note it as we go to tenants. As an example of that is if a tenant is leasing 147 square feet of office space, that's 1 parking space. But if that tenant also is anticipated to have a visitor, well, 1 parking space doesn't cut it. So we say in our summary that requires 2. Or in our summary, if we have a parking calculation that is 4.2, as an example, by the math of the square footage, by the use, office space, 200 square feet. Well, at that point, the 4.2, we don't round down in our calculation, we round up, because each of these are independent tenants. So in that case, we're not sharing customers coming in cars. So we take the conservative approach in having our parking summary rounded up, which is a very conservative approach to it, and it is more stringent than the ordinance requires. I do know in the planner's report, the 2028 planner's report, I believe, Ms. Knight had done a parking chart in the summary. And in that summary, if you add up her calculations, which is done per the ordinance, I will believe you find out that she had calculated 43 spaces. Now, on the following page of that report, she said 47, but if you add the numbers up in her chart, and perhaps we should go to this date. If we go to page 5 of 8 on your planner's report that was dated September 24th, and if you go to the required permitted in her spaces, I believe if you add these up, you'll find that her total by the ordinance to the square footage, rounding up or down, whichever was applicable, came to a total of 43 spaces. Now, since she had done this calculation, I had also addressed that I did not include the basement of the house initially in my summary that she was relying on, and that basement of the house had some changes over history, and my 2025 summary would have taken that use up 2 additional spaces, 3 additional spaces to, if it was her 43, we would still be only at 46 at a max, based on straight up on the ordinance. In my scenario of 50 parking spaces required and 50 parking spaces provided, we are taking those, rounding them up, taking each user, and I note, and again, I probably need to identify this, sir.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I'm going to go to, what I'm identifying is A2, 10-1-25. What's on the easel with A2 are the floor plans and parking summary that was submitted to the board in our update of 925. That summary in the center basically breaks down what I just described in a narrative and describes how the restaurant is at the 18 spaces based on both the 52 seats or the square footage of actual usage inside. It then goes through each of the users, and as we look at the easel, the colored in blue floor plans with various different identifications talks to, an example, Building A, Unit 1, the restaurant, and the number of spaces. Unit A, Building A, Unit 2, the massage therapy. Unit 3, the smoke shop. And when you look at the summary on the chart, as an example, the massage therapy, you'll see a subnote where the massage therapy business, 2 additional spaces were added. So the square footage said you only needed 2. You got 2 persons doing massages and you got 2 people in getting a massage, you need 4 spaces. So we crank it up in my summary. And we take a very conservative approach to generating, based on the ordinance and based on what would be a logical use of each of those tenants, what the parking requirement is. At the end of the day, with the various different locations, we would have the 50 spaces required and 50 spaces are provided as I described earlier. Each one of these uses, the smoke shop, the restaurant that we're currently talking about, the smoke shop in square footage actually was reduced over years when the rear of the building was used for the massage tables and an office for the massage tables, where there was change in occupants and change in tenancy over the past 5 to 6 years. Each one of these buildings is broken out and described in the reports to the board in their submission. Your board's professionals have had these for their review. I can expand on this further, or I can simply go right to board questions and see if there's any more questions the board would need for clarification.
Is there another exhibit down below that you want to mark?
This one is more of a contingency plan. If the board has issues that we need to correct, I would defer to council and
No, we don't need to mark it. You're submitting A1 and A2.
A1 and A2. But there is something that, if necessary, we can entertain the idea of, and we can have further discussion with the board if it's necessary.
Thank you.
I think we can continue. We'll come to questions at the end of your testimony, unless
I'm
you're
pretty
done.
much-
Okay, so we
Alright.
will first send it to the professionals.
Yes, Madam Chair. Just referring to the report I last prepared dated September 25th, 2025. The first two pages, basically in the top of page 3, are a reference to all the information and exhibits that had been submitted by Megan Ward, as Mr. Campbell indicated earlier. With regards to completeness, there's a lot of history on this application. And again, based on the information that's been submitted, and I think the testimony that's been provided after Mr. Campbell and I spoke after the last meeting, I hope is helpful for the board to give them the background history and the information on the application. With regards to zoning, I would point out that they're not proposing to change any of the existing site configurations, but I did note in the bottom of page 3 that there are certain pre-existing non-conforming conditions. For example, for buildings A and C, where a 100-foot minimum setback is required, they have 36.2 and 68.8 respectively for buildings A and C. Side yards, 30-foot minimum, 21.8 and 15.4 feet are provided. With regards to parking setback, where 25-foot minimum is required from the right-of-way, they do have parking in one case right up to the right-of-way line, and by the same token on the parking setback for the side yard, 10-foot minimum is required, and for building C, you've only got approximately 1.5 feet more or less. Again, they're not doing anything or proposing anything under this application to change that, but I pointed it out because it was noted on the facility plan, and if there's any sort of relief that the board deems appropriate to grant, that you be aware of it, just as part of any decision you make on the application. And as I point out on the top of page 4, restaurants and retail uses, as Mr. Campbell indicated before, are permitted in the PCED zone. With regards to the site plan, the buildings and all the existing parking facilities on the site are existing. Then as far as parking and loading goes, as Mr. Campbell pointed out, it is a situation where, based on his analysis, and I believe the conservative approach, as he and I discussed since the last meeting, of adding some parking spaces here and there because of the reality if you've got a client, you've got a staff member in the office and a principal, you might need an additional parking space or two or versus what the ordinance actually calls for. So that's the rounding up that he was referring to. One of the things that perhaps he could elaborate a little bit further when we get to it, on the days and hours of operation for the various facilities, just so the board can see if there is any overlap or if there's a sufficient gap between the operating hours of the businesses, so that even though 50 parking spaces by his calculations are provided and 50 are needed, an added bonus and conservative approach to it would be they're not all coincidental at the same time. So I think that would be something they could elaborate on a little bit further. With regards to stormwater management, again, there's no change in the impervious, so there's no change greater than 500 square feet, so additional mitigation for stormwater isn't required. The lighting on the site is existing. There is an existing well as far as utilities that serves the site, and one of the things Mr. Campbell and I discussed again before this meeting was to provide background information on the septic systems, which he provided some documentation, and I realized it was from decades ago, but he wanted to give that history, and I thought that would be helpful for the board, just so you know where it's been as far as the construction of the septic systems, especially for the restaurant, which is the heaviest user on the property that way. No change in the landscaping. The buildings are existing. And again, I think it was spoken about at one of the earlier hearings, this facilities plan was designed, I believe, not only for this application, but I think in the future for Dr. Negri to be able to program how she's going to handle her parking and her tenants and what areas are devoted to each particular tenant and the areas involved. Because I explained to Mr. Campbell that one of the things my understanding is that the board was concerned about was to have some quantitative documentation as far as what was being dedicated for each tenant so that the areas were consistent and basically up to date. With regards to the signage that they're proposing tonight, my review is basically, I remember when there was an application before the Sparta Zoning Board for the electronic display sign, was one of the first ones in the township, and there were certain restrictions granted as far as what color, how intense it could be, how often it could change, et cetera. And my understanding, and the applicant can correct me if I'm wrong, is that they're willing to abide by those requirements that were requirements of that zoning board application. And also that basically the size of the sign plates that they're proposing basically mimic what was there before for the previous restaurants and businesses. And by the same token, at the smoke shop, that's basically in-kind for in-kind as far as the overall size and what have you on that particular building. They did not provide an EIS. Basically, the basic information that would be needed, it was brought up before regarding the septic system, and Mr. Campbell addressed it, I think, by saying that they would pump the septic system before the first tenant moved in if the board were to grant the application, and also to adhere by any pumping regularity and maintenance requirements that would be required by the county health department since they absorb Sparta Health Department. And then finally, obviously, they're going to have to get approval from the township construction official, the necessary permits, and fire protection from the Fire Prevention Bureau. And that's an update on my report, Madam Chair.
Ms. Knight?
So I just want to thank Mr. Campbell for getting that site plan together. I know that it was kind of a rush job, but it really helped clarify a lot of questions that we had from the original submission, specifically the parking and making sure that all of the uses on site were accounted for. That really helped clear up a lot of questions that we had, specifically for myself. Could you just confirm, I know there are two ADA spaces, just confirm that one is van accessible? I believe one is based on the dimensions, but
There's actually three
three?
ADA van accessible spaces.
Okay, great. Yeah, that was the one thing that I had a question about. And then the second piece, although I didn't update my letter because it only came in on Monday, the applicant did submit a sign plan, which shows the main freestanding sign and the proposed signs, which will all be the same colors, same look, and the same size of what was previously approved and by the board. So just from my opinion, I believe that this would be a cohesive design for a sign. It's all blue, white, besides the one electronic messaging center.
Mr. Varro, any questions?
Yeah, just quickly, and thank you on the sign lightage issue. My understanding is that when the stores are closed, the operation, that the lights will be turned off. Council, is that?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
and then my understanding is there'll be no flashing on the sign.
There will not.
It's, as the planner and the engineer pointed out, the same color and look. I think that's fine. One issue that, just from my notes, will the lighting be a down lighting, not a box out? Can we downlight,
We're still going to provide testimony on the signs.
Okay,
So you guys will get all of those answers.
good.
Okay,
Now,
great.
unfortunately, our sign expert couldn't be here, but we do have our client, and I do have a board specifically prepared for the signs, so we can show you exactly what they're going to look like.
All
We
right,
just couldn't get them to you in time.
I'm satisfied. Thank you. Nothing
Thank you.
further.
Okay. Questions to the board for this witness?
I have one quick question. Regarding the restaurant septic, I know they said, you guys said that you would have it pumped prior to the new tenant coming on. When was the last time it was inspected?
I don't know when the last time it was inspected. What I had commented to is that we would have it pumped and evaluate the function before a tenant got operational, so that will be fully operational.
Inspected then
Yes.
Yep. That'll
Thank
be a
you.
condition of approval. Pumped,
and
yep,
inspected?
and inspected.
Any other questions?
Do you know the distance of the restaurant and the businesses from the nearest well?
Yes, the well is on site. And as we look at A1, and we are on Route 15, looking at the property, on the left-hand side, behind Building C, you'll see the well is identified in the back left corner of the building, on the back left corner by the handicap ramp that accesses. The septic for the restaurant is, do I scale it? From the restaurant septic, it's about 160 feet to the restaurant septic. There are other septics that facilitate the other ones. All of these have been in over history. And at this point, the water service for the facility is still by that via well. Other sites around it are done by the Sparta Water Company.
That would make the need to take care of the septic very important, since there's the close proximity. Plus, you're compounding that with a lot of impervious surface there, which leads me to my next question. Is there any plan to perhaps do something with landscaping? Because I think that would serve the businesses well in terms of being attractive. And it would also help, you know, with the water situation and protecting the well.
So I do emphasize to that restaurant, which is a heavy user, the 160 feet, where classically we have a 100-foot minimum, which is to be maintained. Recognizing that we are in a very sensitive area with the water conditions of this region of Sparta. We're more or less keeping the status quo, and at this point, simply looking for one restaurant type to go and another restaurant type to take its place. We're not proposing any site changes other than fixing what was done during COVID for those 3 spaces that were non-compliant. We made them compliant. In regards to recharge or other aspects of that nature, this whole region is predominantly a coarse sand and gravel. There are several infiltration chambers that the roof lines go to that were installed some 30-plus years ago. They were actually there prior to my involvement with the property. And in one of the applications, there was something that was brought forth with a seepage pit for one of the roofs that would have just that, manage the roof water in to get it back in for recharge. In this application, we're looking for a change in occupancy. We're trying to make sure our septics are good and that the users have that septic capacity, and we're making sure that our parking is adequate. If there's a future site plan that is probably in the works for this property, at that time, we would address all the other associated aspects of a site that would involve whether it's applicable to put additional landscape in and where it could be done. Keeping in mind that these septic systems are significantly large for the restaurant. By the time you take the field, the septic times 2, which could be somewhere around 3,000 plus square feet each, and put a 10-foot circle around them, you're not planting trees or shrubberies near those. With the rest of the property, it's well maintained. The driveway and the grass up to it is edged perfectly. So I'm sure the board members went. It's one of the sites in Sparta that is actually manicured with the edging down the driveway and well maintained in order to have the curb appeal. If there's areas to do planting, I think that the landlord would entertain that, but not by a planting plan or a requirement, but because she maintains the property and has the desire to make the property look that appealing, so she has good tenants. So to answer your question, none is planned, none is proposed, and for a change in occupancy, I don't know that any is really appropriate at this time. A future site plan would be an ideal time to revamp the whole site if that should take place, at which point we would evaluate it and have a landscape plan available.
Thank you, sir.
Excuse me. Yeah, my main questions in the last meeting were about parking, and you've satisfied those. So I'm good. Thank you.
Nothing at this time.
Yeah, I have questions about the traffic control into the parking spots, because Route 15 at that juncture is very busy now. It's busier than it was when you first became involved with the site. It's busier now than it was when it was Paparoni's restaurant. It's just gotten busier and busier. What is the traffic flow? Where is the northern driveway going to be the entrance only, or is that also going to be exit?
No, there's no change, there's no proposed changes in the traffic circulation on this site from what it's been since the 1990s.
Okay, can
The
you?
entrance is
yeah.
an entrance exit on the north end, so the entrance and exit, it's got no choice, has no place to go at this time. And then on the lower section, there's a curb cut that goes into the parking bays in close proximity to the computer smoke shop. And then the other curb cut goes into the primary area in the back parking lot. So there's open curb cuts, curb lines that have been installed by the DOT over the years or by whatever road improvements. So we are not looking to, and not able to, change any of the circulation in or out of the site. It's just not viable. There's no plausible way of making a curb cut difference in the current times.
So right now, people enter through the northern driveway?
Correct.
Okay. And if they drive around the building,
They can't drive around the building.
they can't?
There's no circulation that drives around the building.
Okay. So the delivery trucks, for example, they would come in through the north.
Yes.
They would go behind the restaurant.
They go into the main parking lot.
Uh-huh.
They back up to the loading zone at the freezer.
Mm-hmm.
And then they pull out to the end of the parking lot and come back out the entryway the way they came in.
Okay. And as of right now, they can choose, people going into that site can choose to either go left or right into traffic on 15?
Well, at this point, that's what they have to do if they want to. There's no destination on 15 that provides adequate U-turn jug handle or the like in order to have restricted access at this point.
Is there any way to put up a sign that you can only make a right-hand turn upon exit? Because what I'm concerned about is people holding up north and southbound traffic trying to get in and out of this site.
And I understand your concerns, yet if there's a person that is in this facility and wants to go north, but they have to go south, where are they going to go north? And this has been an issue since 2007. So part of my history, should I keep going?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Part of my history on this project was also a year to 2 years of meetings during the year 2007, 2008, at which time there was a single center line here. And at that time, the state of New Jersey started to put in the crosshatch. Mr. Negri and myself, and whichever attorney at the time, had numerous meetings with the DOT for just that reason, that when they do this, it makes the site access unusable to go north or south. And if you're going north and you can't make a left turn in here, you've got no place to go. You're going to go down to Lafayette. There's no jug handle down to Lafayette. You don't have a jug handle in an intersection at White Lake Road. You go in, turn around on Wilson Drive. It doesn't work. What works is what had been there historically. And if it creates a need that they have to make a left turn, people are going to do that. And to burden this site with something that occurred on Route 15 because they're trying to put a restaurant where a restaurant is without increasing the intensity of use should not have an adverse impact because of the restriction of the highway. There were plans that had this access corridor, because it's not just the restaurant. It's also the commercial buildings to the north. I mentioned the former Amergraph. Amergraph was the property to the north on lot 16 who shared that driveway. Mr. Wilson in the back. I intentionally emphasized those adjoiners because they share this driveway. All three of these properties have that same situation. All three of these properties have had that situation over history. If we go to 2007, that's when they had the taper, where the end of the crosshatch, that taper just went past the entrance. And then sometime 5 to 10 years ago, when more traffic lights came in, the turning lanes came in, they extended the crosshatch past this, which would suggest that you don't make the left in, you don't make the left out, and it simply shuts down the site. and makes one of the properties, well, three of the properties, more or less unusable pieces of real estate. I do note that this corridor has a bigger plan. And should the properties to the south of Paparoni site, or the application tonight, that would be the lot 19 and the lot 20. As you look at the tax map, you had lot 19, 20, and 21. Lot 19 and 20 were taken out as a minor subdivision as part of the Sanford Farm West. There's the traffic light. You got curb returns on these lots. This entire area was intended to have a parallel access road similar to what you have across the street. So this driveway could be restricted in a future time when the traffic light that exists there now and the interior road network that was on the planning tables of Mr. Wilson, of Mr. Trost, of the planners in Sparta back 20, 30 years ago. You'll notice on lot 18, if you look carefully at the plan, you'll notice that there's a strange radius here with curbing that goes to lawn. You'll notice there's two inlets and a cross drain. That's in the middle of nowhere. This infrastructure is built here with the anticipation that this driveway will access a road along the property line of 18, come through the development of whatever complex is built on lot 20, Sanford Farms section, and come right out to the traffic light. So when lot 20, 21, or 19 are developed within a type of use that warrants a roadway, that interconnection road is on the planning tables of this whole region. I don't know that the municipality knows that at this time, if they still have it, but this has an integral parallel access road that ultimately was going to try to get out to Wilson Drive, which would solve a lot of your traffic congestion problems today if something like that occurred. At that point, there would be no left turn in. There would be no left turn out. It would simply be going out to the traffic light through an access drive, through a development on the adjacent property. These are aspects that were in this plan 20 plus years ago. And on this plan, I recalled this whole aspect when I recalled this curb that we staked out and built on the property to the rear. It's a curb return for a road that goes nowhere. It's catch basins and a pipe for a road, anticipating going down to that property. So in future planning, when something takes place on these properties to the south, that will then have a remedy coming out to the traffic light. Until that time, we need to have a functioning site making left turns in and out as we need to in order to have our customer base and a tenant.
Ron, questions?
Okay, thank you. I'd like to talk about the stack spaces. I believe the resolution that approved those as employee parking spaces. So is there any signage to that effect that these are for employees? And Dr. Negri or anyone, are they assigned to any specific business and those employees?
Yes.
And one more further question could this be a place that maybe the transport buses are used for?
Exactly. Yes. Yes and yes.
Perfect.
So as we look at, on the easel here, you have A1, and we come in the southern lot access, and you see where we have 3 stacked parking spaces. Currently, the sign here is identified to the physical therapist. So the physical therapist parks in one of the stacked parking, and if her assistant or if a customer that comes that knows, they stack right behind her. Next to that are the other 2, which are going to be designated specifically for the medical transport. So the medical transport vehicle can be stacked.
Yep.
The employee and the manager can park in the stack next to it, and they can self-regulate. One pulls in, van goes out, the other pulls in, the van pulls out, and it does not obstruct the use of the other lots in the other areas.
Thank you. Sergeant Smith submitted a memo dated September 3rd. I'm not sure that we addressed that. Can we address that? His comments there?
Yeah, honestly, I don't,
what it
I
is.
don't have that.
Let me give you a copy. I think for the most part, you may have addressed these already, but I just want to make sure, clarifications.
Kevin, while we're looking at that, just from my notes, on the stacking, we have the transport company. What was the other company?
The physical therapy.
Physical therapy.
Thank you.
I believe the correspondence from Sergeant Smith has been addressed with the parking summary that we provided. Questions are relating to current base of 37 parking spaces, and he needed information to support. I think we went through the parking spaces we have, the analysis of parking, and was adequate.
That was, what did we say, it was 50 spaces?
We have a total of 50.
Okay.
Yes. And his letter refers to 37,
Yes.
which could be from a 1990 site plan or something thereabouts. There are no apartments, so I don't think that's an issue.
Okay, great, thank you. And then the last question I had, and I believe Ms. Knight addressed this in her memo, in terms of the hours of operation, is there any staggering between the businesses that would help free up parking spaces? Are they all operating at the same time? Are they different hours, or any testimony that you want to give to that regard?
We
I
can,
don't believe I can testify to that regard, but I do know, I thought in the planner's report that there was prior testimony summarizing that, if I recall, in the planner's report. So I don't know whom in the history did it, but I personally
Okay.
not. I defer back to the planner's report that says there was prior documentation on it. And I
So,
don't
Ms. Knight,
think
are you
Dennis was-
satisfied?
Yeah, at the previous meeting, they talked about the hours of operation between the incoming uses and the existing uses. So, for example, like the restaurant would be open on weekends as opposed to the office uses would not be.
Okay, great. All right, that's it, thank you.
Hi. I know you say 50 spaces. I just want to go back to our planner for a second, though, because I'm still a little confused on that. On page 6 of your report, it says total required space is 49. And then on page 5, there were 2 that you rounded down, which I'm not sure why. But if you round them up, what is the required space that you come up with?
I believe that I came up with 49 and there's just a typo within the table.
So 840 square feet divided by 200, it has 4.2, and you said 4 spaces, but that should be 5?
Say that again.
Building B, physical therapy,
Okay.
840 square feet divided by 200 comes to 4.2 spaces, but you rounded down to 4. If you round it up to 5, does that affect the 49?
Yeah, I think there's a typo within the table. So I think when I did the original accounting, it was 49, but within the table, it's only adding up to 43. So like I said, there's a typo.
All
I
right,
wouldn't
so
have
we're-
to,
So I'm disregarding the table and I'm looking at your total of 49?
yes.
Okay.
I mean, if we could also refer to Mr. Simmons' report as well, if we feel more comfortable looking at his parking
Okay, I just
calculation.
wanted to, Mr. Simmons, you agree it's 49?
Based on the calculations that Mr. Campbell did and the meeting we had at our office where we discussed how he rounded up and/or from a practical standpoint, added an additional parking space based on the number of tenants or office personnel and owners that were going to be on site. He rounded up to 50. I agree with the 50.
So 50 would be the required?
50 would be the number, yes.
Okay.
In my opinion.
And just for the record, I was not included in that meeting, so I would not have known this information.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So the 3 stacked, that you're counting them as 1 stack, 2 stack, 3 stack, so 3 spaces.
6 spaces. 2 cars.
So you have on your chart 47 spaces plus 3 stacked equals 50.
So if you take the stack away, I still have 3 spaces there.
Okay.
The
That-
car that's behind the
trying to
car
understand
is
it.
the stack.
Okay. How, what is the size of those spaces?
Predominantly, they are 9 by 18s or 10 by 820s throughout the site. So there's a mix, that's why I testified earlier, that there's a mix of different sizes throughout the entire complex. And the minimum.
I'm asking about the stacked, the size of the stacked.
That area of stacking is approximately 36 feet long, so it's anticipated 2 at 18.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure of.
Bumper to bumper, you don't need 20 or the 18.
Yeah. I didn't know if they were regular size and you were
And
just
there were
backing
those
out
there, the
longer.
cars that were there were compact cars, 2 stacked. Not by design for my picture, but they were there by coincidence.
Okay. I'm also concerned about the circulation and the turning. And we talked about the north entrance, but you said there are 2 other curb outs. So if you're going to the smoke shop, you cannot go out the north entrance. You have to go out a different exit.
Yes.
I should have said exit. And then there's a third one where you can, so 3 left turns.
There's 3 curb cuts, which provide for free access right and left turns.
The ones that are on the right, forget the north for a minute. So you've got the other 2. Is there a circulation where you can come in one and go out the other?
Because typically they'll have it in the
I haven't evaluated that. It could be possible, but there's also another issue that comes into play, that it's a site that's operated to function since the 90s.
It doesn't matter to me. We're not in the 90s anymore.
And sometimes when you change what has been the status quo over years, it creates more conflict than leaving the status quo until there's a significant change for that corridor I mentioned earlier. So I don't believe making a change in the highway cuts or the use of those circulations would add any benefit. I think if anything, it could add confusion to the site that has operated for so many years.
Entrance only, exit only. How is that confusing? Or no left turn on some of them.
I heard my comment on drivers today. But it's simply that people are creatures of habit and they have done things for so many years coming in through the site. I've personally been in out of here since the 80s, before the restaurant. I drive in the back, I go to which one is the most convenient and available. If I'm parking over by the smoke shop, I'm using the one in the north. If I'm coming out of the former real estate office, I'm going to the one to the south. Changing an egress on a state highway is a significant task that is applicable if we have a site plan application that would lead us to that. But when we're looking at a change in occupancy, it would burden this application to go to the DOT and have a change in the signage of an access point.
So you're unwilling to request it?
I don't believe it's a reasonable application request at this point. I think a future site plan, you might consider it, or if the access roads come through, you'll have a different circulation. At this point, going to the DOT to alter the signage of our access points that have existed there for so many years is problematic.
But it's not like it was 30 years ago. Not like it was 20 years ago. It's not like it was 10 years ago. It's very, very different road right now. So I know I have concerns about that.
And my concern would be that they did the road the way they did without taking this property into consideration for the safety and egress of this road. At the same point, yes, we had concerns there. Yes, we know the future plan, yet to try to alter an access and a curb cut in the state of New Jersey on a highway is not something you can do. We'll see you next year, is basically what we would have to tell you. So doing something at that point through the DOT is my opinion, an unreasonable burden to task for a change in occupancy.
The other properties you were referring to, I think lots 18 or something, where you say,
16 and 18, yes.
is that going out through what is now the sunflower fields? Is that what you're saying?
Ultimately, in the future,
Yeah.
yes, that would be going to the south. There's on design by concept and a future plan, more or less a regional plan. Mr. Wilson, I don't know if you knew Mr. Wilson Senior, he was the developer of the Commerce Park, Wilson Drive. Gail Court, his wife was Gail. Mr. Wilson had a plan through all the commercial parks on that side of his development, and it included ultimately coming through a roadway between the back rear building I described on lot 18, paralleling the back of lot 17, and then this driveway would come out and down to the lake. And then there was a whole development scheme on the property to the south, which would warrant that kind of road infrastructure. And ultimately, he had a plan to try to get out to Wilson Drive, which would be through the back of that former Ambergraft property, Lot 16. And it would also have to work out something with what is now Lot 14 or Lot 13. At the time of the plan, he owned this all. So at the time of the plan, it was a good plan to come off of Wilson Drive, come through the back and parallel down Sanford Farm. And that's the reason why Mr. Wilson bought the Sanford Farm when it came up. As you know, the owner across the street and the development of ShopRite on the one side, and Mr. Wilson bought this side. The subdivision was done, the interchange was put in, the light's there. It's waiting for some development on this southern property in order to incorporate the road infrastructure to take these properties to. Until such time, if we had to restrict these vehicles from left, it would shut down the facility.
Well, it's been 30 years, so I'm not holding my breath on that one, but two other questions. The Unit 2, the massage therapy medical and the chiropractic office in Unit 2B medical, those are both vacant?
That's correct.
Okay. When you do an as-built plan, will you put them down as vacant so that we know that new tenant has to come back for approvals?
And we should talk about what the approval process will be tonight, so we know what the applicable process is. As you see on the plan, the anticipation is that Dr. Negri, who is semi-retired and is also the owner of the real estate here, is looking to have her own mini facility in that unit, whether it's the office for the administration of this complex or whether it's on a retirement basis if she sees a patient. So the anticipation is to have a future chiropractic office in a portion of this, if not all, of Unit 2. And I guess we'll determine tonight what the applicable process is for the occupancy of future tenants.
Okay, that's all I have for now.
Mr. Burrow?
I have a
Actually, I have-
follow-up question. I'm looking at the revised parking summary from September 24, 2025. Is that the, okay. So the restaurant is required to have 18 spaces? Okay. And are those 18 spaces all, can you put the site plan map back up, please? Are those 18 spaces all located off of the northern driveway?
That's the predominant use, yes. So that there's the 3 spaces in the front, the 5 spaces, and then there's the 8 and the 9. So this access door is in. There's one is wheelchair needs for accessibility. They have the handicap stall in front of the restaurant. They have 5, which are readily to the front door of the restaurant. And then they have the 17 in the field in the back, which is not solely for the restaurant, but is the predominant use for the restaurant customers.
Okay, and the 3 spaces in the front, all 3 are handicapped accessible,
No.
or, no, just one?
One handicap stall at the restaurant, one handicap stall down at Building B, and one handicap stall at Building C.
Okay,
Each of these buildings are providing a handicap space, which technically, we could say we need one, and we could probably pick up another stall, but we have it designed this way so that all 3 buildings have ADA space.
okay. And the smoke shop, which is a little further down to the south, has its own curb cut and 5 parking spaces?
Well, there's 6 parking spaces in that proximity, and the smoke shop can use one in the front of the restaurant if they would choose to, which I've seen vehicles in this stall going to the store. These 3 spaces can be used for Building C or Building B. It's ideal that the 3 spaces in front of the smoke shop would be the customers of the smoke shop or the operator. It's not regulated by any signage for these back units other than I described for the stacked units and for one specific parking for the, a loading zone, so that nobody parks in the loading zone, so we don't obstruct any trucks turning around. So these are more or less open spaces for any user to use as needed. There's somebody in the back of Building A, in back of the smoke shop, use parking space, they can readily use the one in front. There's also a loading zone to that same building. So we have loading areas and turnaround areas designated for all these buildings. We have parking, which is shared throughout all the buildings unless it's specific to a certain user. Specifically, the user is the one I bump up. So if the parking requirement that a massage therapy requires 2 spaces, we add then 2 spaces. Because the square footage is a number that's less than what is practical that would actually happen. So as you look at these spaces, certain ones are designated because of that type of use. So when we bump them up and have the extra stalls applied to the tenant that's there, we also then add the signage to control that tenant.
So there will be signage saying parking for smoke shop?
There's park signage that says for the therapist in the back, where she staff parks, and there'll be signage provided for the medical transports.
Okay, so those parking spaces will be off limits to people going to the smoke shop and people going to the restaurant?
That's right.
Okay. I am more concerned with people who are customers of the smoke shop and of the restaurant not wandering around the entire property looking for parking, because that is going to create additional problems for people getting in and people getting out. So is it possible to put up signage in front of the smoke shop saying parking for smoke shop?
I would think, well, first of all, let me back up for the smoke shop and see what the anticipated parking.
I have 5 here.
That's 5 on the summary of the chart. There was
Right.
testimony as to the number of employees and the number of customers that
Right.
the smoke shop had.
And from last time, that said number of employees is 1 and number of patrons is 1 to 2 at a time. So that would be
That
3.
would be 3. And using that scenario, if we took these 3 spaces right in front of the smoke shop and designated them for smoke shop customers, and we could find a way of providing adequate signage, we would do that if that's acceptable to the board. Because common sense would say that's where they're going to park anyway. And we have the 3 that are based on the use, as opposed to trying to take the requirement and have signage that would actually restrict one from parking in a spot that was convenient to the use should they need. So smoking, the first 3 here, ideal. It's a great idea and we'll make it happen. That's the 3 for what the user has. How many did we say we needed in the smoke shop?
5.
5, at which point, if there was a need for additional in smoke shop, they would use what's available. And I would think readily available will be 15 feet away, 2, 3 spaces that are not necessarily ideal for building C or building B to use, but they're available for them should they get in the lot that's full, they park here. So the smoke shop has ample parking readily available to it. We can sign those first 3. And if you felt it was necessary to sign the 4th, we could certainly sign the 4th. But I would hate to restrict an area that doesn't get used, that another occupant couldn't use it.
So can you mark the area of the 3 curb cuts?
3 curb cuts are these areas that say depressed curb.
Depressed curb?
So it's the black curb instead of the outline curb. It's labeled depressed curb, and that's where the curb cuts come in.
Okay.
Counsel, could I just get from my notes now, because we had some discussion on shared parking.
Sure.
The hours of the smoke shop, if maybe we can get that.
I'll have, my next witness can testify to the hours.
Just with the parking again, though, you have 17 on the restaurant side, plus 5, plus 3. So it's heavily on that side, and there's no way to go around. So if somebody is in the lower lot, as I'll, down, yeah, and there's not enough parking because some of their spots that they need are on the other side of the building, and that's 17, how do they get there? They have to pull out, make a left, and in, that's, wow.
And And if they park here and they need to go to the restaurant, they have to walk a few feet.
So one quick question, not to beat a dead horse. The one spot that you were saying that was on the other side of the smoke shop, right? So you've got the three that in front that you're saying that you can sign. And there was the other one on the other side. Right, yeah, so you're saying if you would potentially sign one specifically for the smoke shop. Would it be possible, I know you'd said that you didn't want to segregate something for, that could be used for other use, but right now, one of the requirements is an employee spot. Is it possible to take that spot and make that, not one of the three in front of the smoke shop, because that would be for customers, but the other one on the other side that we were talking about, and making that an employee parking spot, so that it doesn't take up one of the three that are in front of the smoke shop for customers? Is that possible?
Yeah.
Just to ease the circulation this way, because an
I think it's a
employee
good idea.
is gonna come in and
Yeah.
stay all
So we're gonna
day,
make it
whereas,
so
you
the
know,
employee
Make
at the
all
smoke shop
employees-
parked where I saw him the other day.
Make all employees go on the side where you have the extra spots on the 17, no matter who they are.
I don't believe that's viable. I believe that what you're suggesting is a good idea because I observed that that's where he parked the other day.
okay, yeah, because that, honestly, I think that,
This one would be the employee for the smoke shop. And then these would have the smoke shop signs to regulate it,
correct,
which would take one demand on this end and put it to the upper lot.
right. And I think that'll help a little bit with the, confusion potentially of driving around, out and over.
Now, I emphasize too that the current use of Building C is 2 employees.
Right,
And the 2 employees filling up this lot, by comparison to the building requirement of Building C, which was currently 10 spaces. So under current uses, as a concern, well, we've got 2 employees that are significantly daytime employees. They're not there at night, et cetera, not in the evening of the restaurant. And those 2 employees are in the back lot here. So this lot, based on the nature of the occupancies, where there's a heavy load, you have the staff. There's parking in here that by ordinance is a large number. By reality of use, 2 employees don't need 10 parking spaces.
right, but the eventuality is going to be that's going to change, right? So, I understand that right now we're dealing with a change in tendency for a
Correct.
specific spot,
Which
but,
is why my big number's inflated, rounding up, correct?
no, I get that.
And I recognize the nature of the distribution of the parking as brought forth. Yet it's been an operation that has functioned that way, where if the smoke shop is open and crowded, it was the computer urgent care, at which point it was a larger facility. Well, the parking in the rear of this section is now lending itself to the rear of that building, taking away the demand in front of the building. And identifying the smoke shop, that works favorably. Your smoke shop has a good spot, your employee has a great spot because it takes one off the top lot that is in surplus and makes it balance closer.
Right.
Thank you.
I think that's all I have at this point. Thank you. And we are going to right now open it up to the public for any questions for this witness relative to this hearing.
Name and address for the record.
Mike Devine, Sparta. I have an annoying question, which I raised last time, and it's come up again this time. I don't see this as a reason to stop the restaurant, but the turning situation on 15 is really bad. I go to the physical therapist regularly. I have to go to the crosshatch area, wait there, and make a left. Long time waiting. It's not comfortable being in that crosshatch. It's not unique to your location. You go down towards the medical building, it's an analogous situation there. You go over to Anderson Farms, it's a mirror problem. I'm hearing tonight a little bit about there was, when you say on the books, I don't, you mean Mr. Wilson had intentions to find a way out to Wilson Avenue and up to the light? Is it his plan that you said is on the books?
Mr. Wilson, since deceased, but this
Yeah.
was the overall plan for the development of the Commerce Park,
Yeah,
these properties, and the Sanford Farm portion. That was more of a conceptual plan that when the properties were built, was working into that plan. Mr. Trost at the time, I believe Mr. Simmons may have been involved with some of that development of the Commerce Park, whether it was specifically to this end, or whether it was the subdivision I made reference to on Sanford Farm, where they actually have a traffic light and a curb cut, which would connect into that curb return I talked to on the top, to remedy that problem. You point out, this is not an only situation in this town. If we're gonna look at every restaurant.
I'm not suggesting it's a restaurant, but every time we talk about this, we say it's a DOT and that's impossible. We can't do anything about it.
Right.
But it's only going to get worse, especially if we have other developments. They're going to be adding trucks and everything else to 15. Somebody, I hope, is going to say, okay, enough already. We're going to try to do something about it.
Percent with new construction, new development that addresses those problems. So the future development of that lot, 19, 20, 21, would be the remedy to incorporate a road structure that would fix these three properties' problems they bring to the table.
Where was 19, 20, and 21? Is that south?
The properties to the south, what we refer to, I refer to as the Sanford Farm West.
Is that where the sunflower thing is?
That's correct.
So is that, I thought that was not going to be developed. Is that,
Well, what's going on with the current plan and zoning, I don't have any comment to.
Yeah.
I know what history was planning that property to address. And quite frankly, that property in its original plan was to provide a solution to something that would remedy a good portion of the conflicts you have on Route 15 now.
Yeah.
That was the big plan 20, 30 years ago. And the development of that property takes place, and if it takes place for development purposes, as it was originally zoned, it will have that road corridor, and these will become restricted access. They will have a traffic light to get to. They'll have a traffic light to get into. And eventually, they may or may not connect to Wilson Drive. But it's designed to go through this driveway, south, through the Sanford Farm, and come out to the traffic light. Those roads have to be built. Those roads get built with development of that land.
okay, so there's no way, maybe not a question for you, there's no way the town could make that happen? It has to really wait for a development to occur?
It's probably not for me to
Yeah,
answer
right.
to, but you could encourage the developer of the land to make sure it happens that way.
Okay.
Can I just add something on the record, Mike? Because I think it bears on this. We keep talking about it. So 18-4.31A PCED zone required standards F under 15. All planned commercial economic development district zone uses shall meet the following minimum standards. And when you get to, scroll through 15, I think it speaks to what you're talking about. Planned commercial developments shall have either a minimum of 20 acres, subject to the following standards, with 200 feet of frontage on Route 15 or access to an access road connecting the property to the new road at the traffic light on Route 15 or access to Wilson Drive. The access to Wilson Drive may be a public or private street or driveway. There shall be only one roadway from the planned commercial economic development district to Route 15 for primary ingress and egress of the planned new traffic light. Existing operating driveways existing as of August 2017 may continue to operate. All driveways shall connect to the one new road to Route 15. Then it goes on to suggest unified architectural and design scheme, and it doesn't allow for any left turn onto Route 15 for new developments, but this is pre-existing, so it kind of just, it's something worth looking at as far as what the plan was.
Does that mean that if there is another development, they're constrained to do what you said, get this other
Well,
road?
it just, I thought it was just worth
Yeah.
people consulting because it goes along with what was being mentioned for 19, 20, 21, that there was a plan that would tie into Wilson Drive and a shared access road. So I would just urge people to look at 18-4.31A, 15E, F, and related as they relate. But they relate to new and some pre-existing But yeah, there's a common access between parking lots. There's, there's a developer agreement section. There's quite a lot of stuff there.
Okay, thank you. Well, maybe Ernie knows the answer to this. To make the left, going north on 15, to make the left into the physical therapist, and I assume to this site as well, you have to pull into a crosshatch area and wait. Is that legal to even do that? I don't know.
No, but I mean, people do it. People make illegal turns all the time.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, it's not,
if you get in an accident, you get a ticket. If you don't, it's not, I mean, it's, it's crossing a safety zone,
You have no
even more than
option
the
that
double
you have to
yellow
do.
line, but, I mean, truthfully, I know myself, when you were talking about some of those areas, Sanford Farms, or I'm sorry, the Anderson Farms, I know, I don't ever make a left out of there to come back in.
Impossible,
I make a right, I go to Houses Corner Road, turn around in the church parking lot and come out to the light.
I do
If
the
I'm-
same thing.
If I'm leaving this place here, when I think it was one of the Mexican place, I went there one time. But I was going north, I made a right, I went into the the ShopRite complex, spun myself around, came out and used the light. I mean, there's plenty of safe ways to get around in the area, And it depends on the level of traffic. There's times when Route 15 is ridiculously packed. There's also times when it's fairly empty and you could safely make a left. I mean, people do the same thing coming from the north to go into the car wash.
just visualize it's going to get a whole lot worse potentially, so. The other point I was going to bring up later, and I heard a fellow from Negri, I forget his name, at a meeting we were at with a subcommittee about 2 or
Brian
3 months
Intendola.
ago.
Brian Intendola.
Yeah, he made 2 points, and one of them's at least relevant to this. He said something like, there's $11 million in the state budget dedicated to improving Route 15. I've mentioned that at the planning board, I've mentioned that to town council. Nobody seems to react and say, yeah, let's find out about that. Does anybody know anything about that, or is there any reason to kind of find out what it means?
I can tell you that the state moves very slowly on their projects. The bridge that goes over the railroad tracks, I was a rookie cop when they proposed that. The whole thing was designed, and then I think it was 25 years later, they had to come back in and reshoot the whole project because back in the mid-'80s, they did the whole project in metric. So they had to reshoot it in inches.
But
and
if there
feet.
is a plan in any state of development, wouldn't we like to be aware of it and try to maybe influence it or something?
Yeah.
I would think. I don't know whose responsibility that is, but it would seem to me,
Probably our politicians, whether it be the assembly,
yeah.
senator or assemblyman, would probably be the most knowledgeable on any of that stuff and getting that funding coming this way. It's something our council can probably request from them.
Are we allowed to ask Nate Reed to tell us more about what that is? I don't know if Lindsay knows, but he,
I don't know, and I would assume nothing would happen until the election's over as well. So probably nothing until January would be a safe assumption.
okay, thanks.
All right.
Name and address for the record, please.
Beth Roderick, North Shore, Sparta. I actually have a couple of questions. You mentioned Foos and the traffic there. Back in, Ernie, I'm going to rely on you for the dates. Late 90s, early 2000s, that section of Sparta Avenue was reconfigured. They put in left turn lanes to go into Lake Mohawk on Pine Terrace and right by Foos, like that whole area, because of Foos, the physical therapy place, Kitty Academy, people coming from Our Lady of the Lake. I live it every day. They've already done that because people were getting rear-ended, making left turns on that road, right in that general area. So I don't think that was a good example for you to use. But anyway, what I wanted to bring up is from January 1 of 2021 to the end of June 2024, Sparta Police Department did an accident study report, whatever you want to call it. that section of area from like White Lake to roughly where Sparta Urgent Care is, there were over 300 accidents. That is one of the top 3 accident-prone areas in Sparta, documented by the Sparta Police Department. You have an opportunity now to address a safety concern right in that area. Why would you not want to do that now, given that nothing is really going on with the former Sanford Farms since Mr. Wilson, I believe, sued the town or one of the boards? Why would you not take this opportunity now to improve the safety of your patrons or possible patrons while you have the opportunity? Because who knows what's going to go in at the cornfield, basically, or sunflowers now, and it may wind up getting reconfigured. If I were you, I would look into addressing that now and look at the safety of the people possibly going in and out of there, as well as the people in the community. I mean, I can tell you right now, as somebody that's lived here since 1979, I'm afraid to go on that road as it is, even with ShopRite there. I'm not interested in sitting in the traffic during evening rush hour to drive up, try to make a left turn into a parking lot in a documented unsafe zone, or have to go through the ShopRite parking lot to go up to the light, to make a left and come back just to go to a restaurant. And I'm not,
And
I'd like
as
to know,
indicated, a competent driver, recognizing they're not supposed to make the left turn, may find a way to get there. So we are looking at a regulation that crossed the crosshatch. It was expressed that a person with a lot of knowledge regarding traffic and traffic patterns and the controls of the road. You're saying that there's an avenue, you can drive through another commercial facility, through the ShopRite parking lots, through the access corridors, through that whole complex of Ryan Homes, and go out to White Lake Road and come out to the light. And if that's what persons are going to do, then we hope they do that. But we can't regulate and make them.
but what I'm asking is, I don't think you understood my comment. You have 3, you said it was what, 3 spaces for entrance and exit? Why not take advantage of that now, before the restaurant opens? Because you said it's been like this for 20, 30 years. I know it was Paparoni's in 99 when my sister was still in high school. But a lot has changed since the late 90s, including the volume of traffic. We saw the traffic go from double digits to over 300 and something right there.
All of the access points along the state highway is 1, a costly venture. 2, if we're lucky to get acknowledged within the year of a request to make traffic circulation changes along the state highway for curbing changes. At which point we'd be into 2nd year of the restaurant vacancy, and there would be a bankrupt sign on the side, because it's an unreasonable request, in my opinion, to force a change in occupancy of a restaurant to a restaurant to fix a problem that was not created by this property owner. We recognize it's a safety issue. Individuals that drive prudently may go past it, go through the complex. Now what are we doing to the traffic in the complex? Because there's no other state highway interchange available to us. And we're driving through a complex of other properties intended to get to a road, to turn around and come back. And if that's the way you travel, and that's the way is prudent to travel, then people do that. But we can't force them to do it. And to change something in the access point is, in my opinion, an unreasonable request for a change in occupancy of a restaurant to a restaurant that's been existing. My example to Foos was just that. I know Foos driveway very well. I lived very close in proximity to that location my entire 65 years. And this situation has grown in this county repeatedly. But to hinder a property owner with the burden of fixing a traffic solution for a global problem, as you pointed out how many accidents occur on this Route 15 exit, is an unreasonable burden to put on that person trying to get.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate, because that's what I do when traffic is involved.
And I appreciate that.
I'm-
Because hopefully that same pressure will put.
Okay,
it on
please let me
to get
finish.
the development of the roads that are necessary.
Okay,
to
hang
keep
on,
these
hang
problems
on.
away.
You didn't let me finish.
I'm sorry.
I'm a prudent driver. I have no accidents, no tickets, no anything, not even a speeding ticket on my license. Okay, I think since I've been driving since the early 90s, that's pretty damn good. That's like over 30 years without anything on my license. So I think I'm a prudent driver. I can also tell you as a long-term resident that when it was Paparonis and something else and a Mexican place, that there was a lot of downtime in between. Also, when it was Paparonis, there was no ShopRite, there was no Starbucks, which ironically the parking lot, that all had to be reconfigured for safety issues. They did not have the congestion in 1999 or in 2002 or even during as recently as COVID. They did not have the congestion. You keep saying that it's restaurant to restaurant. If you're going to make that kind of a comparison for the span of roughly 26 years, 30 years, whatever you want to use, I don't care. But you have to do the comparison across the board. You have to keep it equal. You are not keeping it equal. I could go ahead and say, hey, guess what? I've lived on North Shore. My family has been on North Shore for 25, 27 years, whatever the math is. So I want North Shore to be left turn in and out on North Shore, not Pine Terrace. Because you know what? That's how it always was. People adjusted to the traffic changes with the left turn only lane to go onto Pine Terrace down by Foos. We adapted when they put in the daycare, they put in the building, the little place with the jeweler and the physical therapy place. We've rolled with it when Ivy Rehab expanded to 3 of the storefronts. You deal. And I don't think that it's unreasonable to say, hey, let's get ahead of a safety issue. So that way, as you say, people are used to a certain way. People have not been dining in that building for a while. So, okay, hang on. Okay, I'm not opposed to small business. I support a lot of the small businesses. Well, you want to explain my order to Casamia yesterday?
Okay.
Okay.
I think
Please don't
we need
interrupt.
to bring it back.
So what I'm
to
saying
the
is,
dais.
because it's been over a year, and this is not the only downtime in that building, people adjusted to it. People haven't been doing this every single day is what I'm getting at. It's not like Stop and Shop where it's, hey, for the last 15 years or however long they've been there, this is what the traffic pattern has been. Now we're going to rearrange it. You have not had consistent traffic, like you just pointed out, in and out of that parking lot for at least a year. So why not take the opportunity before there's an established client base for everybody in there to adjust this, make it safer for the people that are going there? Because honestly, if people are afraid that they are going to get hit, or they can't make the turn, or they don't want to go up to ShopRite and turn around and come back to go in, why not do it now? Adjust the plans. Yes, I know that the state drags its feet. I'm well aware of that. But down the road, you may have to adjust it anyway. Why not get ahead of the game?
Before you even answer that, can I just bring something up that I think is important before we go further? If it's okay. As you're talking, I'm looking at this, and in the reports, it has the uses in that zone. They are the old uses. The new uses for the PCED zone do not allow for restaurants. So it allows for planned commercial economic developments. It allows for office, banks, retail uses in single-use or multi-tenant buildings. So restaurants are no longer a permitted use in that zone. So I think we've been talking about it, but it's not allowed.
And I think I brought this up last time, and at the time I kind of asked, and it was incomplete. So I'm not sure, because I think there was a mention of when was the application received, as kind of, did it predate the change in PCED?
Oh, yeah,
But
but
if
well,
it's
this was beforehand, but I think it
Yeah.
took a while maybe for the code to update, but this was done beforehand.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
we shouldn't even be looking at restaurant. I think, maybe a retail use or something else. Or
Well, what
banking.
was the date that the ordinance was changed, and when was their first submission to the minor site plan subcommittee?
It's-
Also, the
it was
use.
to the planning board. It's a different application. It's reconfigured. It was noticed,
Karen, can you please
and it
opine on
wasn't
this, please?
really deemed complete.
I would
until-
defer to Mr. Poro because if they already had an application in and while the application was being reviewed by
But
the
it's a different
township and then you
application when it
changed
came
the
in here.
ordinance.
All right, so gang, we're here on if you walk out to the site, which I've looked at the site, it is a restaurant, and that if a judge was looking at it, it looks like a restaurant and acts like a restaurant. The time period it's been closed or not, testimony is it's been less than a year. So now if there's a zoning change, the zoning department of Sparta has already determined that it is permitted by way of like to like, so I'm not going to interfere with that. So as far as today, the Sparta Building Department, by way of, through the zoning analysis, has determined that a restaurant is permitted at that location. The issues that are being raised by some of the board members, someone in the public could object and bring, let's say, a prerogative writ challenging that determination. But as far as tonight, we are here on an application. The applicant is proceeding. Counsel, you've heard the issues. Do you wish to proceed at your risk?
Yes.
Yeah, so the issue has been brought to their attention. Again, if a third party was to object, it's so noted, but it's my professional opinion, the board should make a determination and support the determination of the zoning department that it is a like-for-like exchange.
But even if it's like for like, it was, 20 years ago, so it's going to always, always, always be a restaurant, no matter how many times it turns over?
That's an interesting, so let's say they're called expansion of nonconforming uses. This is really not an expansion of a nonconforming use because they're using the exact same footprint in the exact same building. So arguably, if they did not get the filing before, there are certain, you hear the term grandfathered rights, vested rights. So again, the zoning department has made that determination that they have vested rights, and I'm going to support that determination, and the applicant acknowledges that issue and wishes to proceed.
Okay, so just one more question. So that would mean that anything that is on this list prior, it can do? Microbreweries, storage buildings, hotels, motor inns, conference centers, health clubs, churches, houses of worship, they were all taken out of the ordinance.
Correct, but they're not grandfathered by way of a facility or an existing, so this is a facility plan of an existing facility. It would get a little more interesting if, let's say, it was a fitness center versus a Pilates versus a gym versus pickleball versus, is that like for like? That's not the case here. We have a pure restaurant to a pure restaurant. So again, I'm going to stand by that opinion. But good points, Joan, that you bring up.
How does that, just as a related, how does that relate to the pre-existing signage, being that sign standards have changed and we have that, if and when a sign is changed, modified, even minor non-structural changes, that they're beholden to the new updated code?
Yeah, in my opinion, you have more ability on the signage review on time, place, and manner. And I'm looking at the submittal of the sign. The new sign is, similar colors as the board planner brought out. We talked about the lighting maybe being down lighting rather than backlighting. We talked about not flashing, not flashing. So in my opinion, you do have more influence on the signage versus the building, that the four corners of the building are not changing. Let's say the building owner wanted to put on new siding. That's not a zoning requirement. They had the ability to do that. They want to put on a new roof, they can. So those type of things here, in my opinion, again, the signage, you do have public health, safety, and welfare issues. And again, I know I'm repeating myself, no blinking and that kind of stuff is well within your purview. If the operation is closed, the light should be off. Those type of things are well within your power.
And I just wanted to put a pin on that, in that, as we're talking about use, which is grandfathered, that that's for a later time in this signage review.
Thank you.
I would like to piggyback something off of something that Ms. Broderick brought up, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
You say, Mr. Campbell, that it would be a burden to ask you to redirect flow onto a major highway. Okay. But on the property itself, you do have control over over the flow, right? Like when people come into the restaurant, you could say, with pointing arrows, this is the flow of traffic for the restaurant on the property. And you could do the same thing with the smoke shop, correct?
As in, put a sign that says smoke shops here?
Arrows painted on the asphalt that say, one direction only, to actually create a safe flow of traffic.
So if we were to go on site and paint directional arrows, that would encourage the driver to abide by the traffic laws by simply putting arrows on the pavement that's outside the right of way, which would suggest an arrow in. And this arrow, you would think then would be, do it as a right arrow out. And that would encourage drivers to make the right out only without changing the curb line. I believe being on the right of way, we would have to confer with lot 16 because the entrance is partially theirs and get their cooperation. We would have to consult with lot 18 owner and get their consent. But I believe your question would be, can we simply paint an arrow on the driveway to encourage drivers to abide by the traffic rules without altering anything that has to do with the entrance that would require us to go to the DOT? I believe that's what's on the table as a question. And we could consult with the two property owners and see if they would agree with us restriping the one arrow, making it a right arrow. That would be prudent. We can do that. We can come down on the lower end and we can paint suggestive arrows. Can't force a driver. We can make sure that every driver abides by the traffic. But we can on site provide some directional arrows, which would encourage the drivers to do the proper destination. So if someone pulled up to this and there's a painted arrow going right and they chose to make a left, they're already choosing to make that determination, but we'll encourage them that way. Because that was suggested, we'll restrict these arrows on our property to where it would best lend to make the driver follow the traffic rules. I think that's a good solution to helping this remedy.
I'm just trying to make it as safe as possible for everyone that is traveling both on 15 and is trying to get in and out of this property. Because as everyone has pointed out tonight, 15 has changed dramatically. And the traffic, me personally, I don't go north, or at least I try not to go north on 15 after 1 o'clock because traffic has already started, at least during the week. And the smoke shop and the restaurant are going to be overlapping in terms of the hours of operation, and they are retail establishments. So you have to somehow let the patrons know these are parking spaces for the smoke shop. This is the way to go in and out of the smoke shop, and the restaurant, which is further north, the parking for the restaurant is mostly in the back. So that you don't have people just driving every which way around this property, coming in through one of 3 curb cuts, leaving through one of 3 curb cuts. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah, okay.
And I would recommend that we will paint what we can to help encourage that circulation to benefit as much as possible with paint on our property. without having to go to DOT.
Okay,
And if we need to, I can come up with some directional painting, consult with Mr. Simmons for his review, and make something by that means, by all means. But to go to DOT is not something that's viable.
in the interest of time, I'd like to very quickly bring it back to the public so that they can wrap up. We still have another person who needs to testify. So if we can bring it back to the public very quickly.
One last question. What time would you anticipate that deliveries would be made to the restaurant?
Yeah, we can have our client respond to that.
Just, in the interest of how tight the parking is and the circulation is just.
We
outright
understand they'll definitely be in off hours.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that was testified at the previous hearing as well,
Yes.
on the record.
Hi, Jennifer Derricks, Tappan to Sparta. I just have one question. Actually, it's for Mr. Porro. Wouldn't it be inappropriate for the board to consider an application that was made by an attorney who is not a member, who is not certified in New Jersey? And I would ask you to look at the application dated May 1st, 2025.
If an attorney is not licensed and makes a representation, they would be reprimanded. The applications that were submitted here were on attorney's letterhead. There was no indication of suspension. Let's say there was some unethical issue. I believe it's been cured by way of, we have competent counsel here tonight. So if an application was submitted by an improper person, I do believe it has been cured by the attorney being here today.
So there's no documentation that the board is relying upon this evening or in any subsequent hearing that would have been produced or submitted by that attorney?
I'm not aware of any documentation provided from an unlicensed attorney.
I would just ask you to check into that, please.
So noted.
So going along with that, so is it the representation that there is no taint associated with prior applications relating to this current application that we're seeing, specifically minor site plan subcommittee, in regards to, if an attorney who was not actually an attorney put forth the application, we're just looking beyond that and saying it's not tainted by virtue of it was still a quasi-incomplete or quasi-complete application at that time?
In my professional opinion, the applicant and the applicant should not be in the current tainted by a third party, and the third party is the attorney. So you look at the application here on its merit. If
Okay.
it was submitted improperly, shame on that attorney, but it should not flow to the current attorney or the applicant.
Thanks. Just wanted to get that on the record.
I could be wrong, but that's my opinion.
Okay. Anyone else from the public? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to the next.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a plan for you. We're going to mark it A3. I believe we're on 3.
Yes.
Okay, and you will note that there's a date of 9/26/25. And this was provided by EM Signs. Dr. Negri, do you recognize this document? Okay, and was this provided on your behalf?
Yes.
Okay, and did you pay EM Signs to prepare this document?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Now I'm going to look at the top right-hand corner of this document. What is that depicted there? Is this the freestanding sign that sits on the property today?
Yes.
Okay, but it doesn't have all of the same signs on it, correct? Because we're here tonight to get approval for at least 2 of those signs, correct? Okay. And the first sign on the top, what is that sign depicting?
The restaurant, Sparta Mediterranean Cuisine.
Okay, all right. And you'll notice down in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see 2014 revision.
I'm sorry, would you please use the microphones for
Of course.
the people? Thank you.
Sure, no problem.
You'll notice the 2014 revision. That revision, was that approved back in 2014?
Yes,
Okay, and that says Anastasia's on it?
correct.
And that's at the top of that sign?
That is correct.
Okay, and in the exact same location, the Sparta Mediterranean Cuisine is going to be placed, correct?
That is correct.
It's the same width?
Yes,
Same height, same size?
Correct.
Okay, and then below the Mediterranean Cuisine, you'll see another sign. It says Valentine's Day Special. What is that sign?
That is the LED sign that was approved in 2015 with certain stipulations.
Okay, do you remember those
I
stipulations?
sure do. 3 lines, same color. It's not allowed to blink, and it should be off. I believe it can come back on at 6 a.m. or we have those times.
And you're not changing any of that. You're keeping it exactly the same. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and then below that, there's another sign. What is that sign?
That is the Sparta Smoke Shop, which would replace the computer repair sign.
Okay, and the colors depicted on these plans are accurately representing those colors that will exist on the sign.
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct.
And then below the Sparta Smoke Shop sign, what is that sign?
That is the physical therapist.
Okay, and that's the sign that exists there today?
Correct.
Okay, all right, and none of those signs are changing in size, height, or width?
That is correct.
Okay, that's how it's going to appear after we leave this meeting, should the board look kindly upon our application.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Now, if you look over to the left-hand side of the application, you're going to see another sign. What's that sign?
That is the sign that was approved for the side of the building, the same size where the Casa Capri sign is in the picture.
Okay, so you're talking about the Casa Capri sign was approved.
Correct.
Okay, and in that very location, the Mediterranean Cuisine is intending on putting a new sign that is of the same size.
That is correct.
Okay, and that sign exists there on the sheet?
Yes.
Okay, and it says Sparta Mediterranean Cuisine?
Yes.
Okay, is that backlit? Or is that going to be lit from the ground or backlit?
I believe it's backlit.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe it's backlit.
Okay, and then down below that, there's the Sparta Smoke Shop. That sign's going to exist on the side of the building, is that correct?
On the front of the
Or
building.
excuse me, the front of the building,
Yes,
correct?
the front of the
Okay.
building.
And on the front of the building where that sign's going to exist, there was already a sign there, correct?
That is correct.
And what was that sign?
That was the computer urgent care.
Okay, and the new sign that's going there is the same size, height, and width, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, all right. I just want to confirm how this specific sign, the freestanding sign, how is that going to be lit?
Internally, it is lit.
Okay, so for example, the Sparta Mediterranean Cuisine, that's lit internally?
Yes.
Okay, and then for the Sparta Smoke Shop, how is that lit?
I believe that is also lit internally.
Okay, and is the physical therapy lit?
Yes.
It is lit. Internally?
I believe it is. I'm not sure, 100% sure on that.
Okay, so we will make sure that we get that information for the board because we don't know exactly how the physical therapy sign's going to be lit. So if the board has any, any options that they'd like us to consider, we'd be happy to do that. Okay, now there is another sign that exists on the property. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
where's that sign located?
That is in front of the home health care, the home.
And that's Building C, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, and that was approved previously? I
yes.
believe it was back in 2017 by resolution.
That is correct.
Okay, all right. And then there's one sign that's not on this list specifically, but for right now, because we're kind of tabling the issue of you as a tenant in one of the 3 buildings, we're not making application regarding that sign this evening.
That is correct.
Okay, all right. So if the board has questions regarding the signs, now's the great time to ask. I did note, too, that there were some questions regarding timing of openings and closings. If the board has any questions regarding those, again, you can ask the applicant. She has that information, and I know it was provided at the last hearing, but, if you wanted to, get a little bit more information, you could ask.
Okay, so if that's the end of the initial testimony?
Not yet. I figure there'll be some questions.
think we probably should proceed to the end of your testimony and then let's do
Okay,
a
yeah,
full
this
round, of-
would
just in the
be-
interest of
yes,
time.
Sure, this would be the end of our testimony then.
Okay. So then I will bring it to the professionals regarding signs, if they have any additional comments, questions regarding signage.
Madam Chair and board members, I would just say that what Mr. Beckendorf just summarized is basically what I had in my report, basically replacing same size to same size. And as I indicated before, I remember being on that application when it was before the zoning board for the electronic messaging signage. And again, in my report, I had reiterated what some of the conditions were of that electronic sign. And my understanding is from the testimony that the applicant's willing to abide by them still.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Ms. Knight, anything to add?
No, I, just that, if the board was to look favorably upon this, maybe, have a 6-month review by the board engineer, sorry, Dave, of the lighting to make sure that it is still acceptable and still at a level that is acceptable.
Certainly, we would agree to that.
Just quick, Dave, on the number of colors, was that on the prior resolution?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
One color background, one color lettering.
okay, good. And as far as, I guess this is more of what I've seen over there in other boards and other municipalities, a disfavor towards the spray light that comes out and the encouragement of the down lighting, that it can be lit, but it's coming, any opinion on that?
Well, I believe based on the testimony from Dr. Negri and also what I've seen going by just recently, because the sign plates aren't there and you can see the internal bulbs in the light, they're actually internally lit. So it's not a situation, a good point that Mr. Porro brings up about downward facing light, but these particular signs, to the best of my recollection, are internally lit. The other thing that I'm fairly confident, if it's not listed in my report on this application, I'm fairly confident that it was in the approval from the zoning board that there is a limit on the number of nits that can be produced from the electronic messaging board. That's basically an intensity of light, and I'd have to double check the conditions in the zoning board resolution, but it usually was approximately 5,000 nits at night and another larger number of nits during the daylight hours. And the reason for that was during the daylight hours, you have a situation where you've got the sunlight that could wash out some of the electronic messaging text. And at night, when you don't have that sunlight washing things out, you have a situation where you don't want the sign glaring at a driver and causing an issue. So my recollection is that particular application did have some restrictions for the daytime and nighttime nits, which is a measure of the intensity of the light that I would recommend, if the board was going to act favorably, also be adopted for this application.
Counsel, is that your understanding?
Absolutely, yes, without doubt.
Mr. Simmons, to your recollection, was there anything in that initial resolution that stipulated that the signs be turned off at any given point? Can you give us and if so, can you give us the hours of operations of the sign?
I can't remember off the top of my head. Perhaps Lindsay does.
Yeah, I have it right here. So it will only operate during business hours of 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. and will not be lit overnight, were both stipulations within that resolution.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Just quickly, Doctor, on the, we talked about the shared parking and hours of operation. Is there ever a time when the smoke shop would be closed and the restaurant open, or vice versa, that they can share parking, or they open basically the same times?
The smoke shop is closed, I believe, at 9, and I believe the restaurant closes at 11. So there would be shared parking after they close.
Thank you. Is the smoke shop open 7 days a week,
Yes.
and the restaurant?
Restaurant 7 days a week, yes.
Thank you.
And what time does the smoke shop open versus the restaurant?
Smoke shop is 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Restaurant is 10 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Okay, I have nothing further.
Okay. We will bring it up to the dais. John, if you'd like to start.
Dr. Negri, since you collect the rent on this, you should know, how long has it been vacant? Like, when was the last?
I believe it was November, October, November.
Okay. I have concerns about this blinking light, the LED, what is it, what do we call it?
The LED?
LED lights,
Yes.
yeah. Because I don't know if you can see this, but I have a video of this thing like blinking like crazy.
Yes.
And it's very distracting, and it's been like that for, a while.
Yes, there was a broken part that we actually had repaired by E&M Signs, and we don't know how, he's teaching, we need to learn how to change that and make it stagnant again.
We've already.
Because this has been
we-
going on for a
yeah,
while. If
Yeah, I
Understood,
know.
and
I'll take
there's
care
no
of it.
question it's not going to be flashing or blinking. We
Absolutely.
absolutely testify to that.
And it's not going to have date and time or any of that stuff that would be changing.
Whatever the screen will be, will be.
What will
Right,
it be?
It's three lines, not flashing.
I will work
Not
on that
changing,
tomorrow.
Not time, not date, not,
It's 3 lines, not flashing.
Changed once a week.
okay.
I will work on that tomorrow. I will call E&M Signs and have him come fix that.
This is back in June I took this, and it's
yeah.
just been going and going,
I know
so
it. And the
it's like-
part was repaired, and it's still not changed.
For the smoke shop, this is just lighting in general. The light that is coming from there is very bright. Coming from the internal of the building, can that be dimmed somehow so that that is not distracting at night?
Absolutely. They've already, I've already spoken to them, and they have taken the LED lights that were towards the front window. They have already taken those out.
LED lights are
We can make
out.
that a condition of approval if the board looks kindly upon the application that the lights will be dimmed.
Absolutely.
And condition of approval, would you accept that no paraphernalia be seen in the window so minors can't go by and see it as they're going to the restaurant?
What would the paraphernalia be defined as?
I would assume that that would be along the lines of their glasswares and anything that could be misconstrued by youth or anyone, walking past there toward the restaurant or in the vicinity.
I have no problem with that as long as my tenants have no problem with that. No, they're talking about some paraphernalia, certain
Yeah,
things
we're
not
just
shown.
asking whether or not your glasswares can be moved beyond the eye line of the front window.
Can you come to the mic, please?
Yeah, please.
And if tinting would do the job and not see any of it.
Right, if tinting.
Dr. Chauhan?
Would you
Yeah.
please swear him in?
Solemnly swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Name and address for the record, please.
Raftar Chauhan, 87 Miller Ave, Sayreville.
And just spell your last name, please.
Chauhan.
Thank you. So the question, and you are the tenant at the property in question?
Relative.
Relative, okay. But you're familiar with the operation?
Yes. We, I helped set up, put some work, sweat.
And you can
time,
speak
hours.
you can speak on behalf of the tenant?
Yes.
All right, and the question came up as far as some of the paraphernalia, some of the glassware may not be appropriate for young eyes to see. Can that be moved to more of the rear of the store?
So, my concern is it's a very small store, and there are large windows. What we can do is we have the glassware in question is noted outside and inside. If any of the board members would want to go take a look, it says strictly tobacco use only. Second thing we can accommodate is putting a tint towards that, so that takes away the shine of the store where the too much light is coming out, as well as, where it's not a clear vision of what's displayed inside the store, but can be seen through the window. We
Yeah,
can
I
do
think
that.
tinting would definitely be a viable option, only because from the street, you can't see that it says for tobacco use only.
Absolutely. We have about, I think, 30 to 40 signs, so it doesn't get misconstrued or the use
that, we have. But absolutely, we are willing to tint the windows, so, people do not take upon their imagination the use.
Joan, do you think there's anything else that we can possibly do?
If I do, I'll let you know. Come back.
That, I'm taking that to the bank. Ron?
Okay, just real quick, the wall sign for the smoke shop, that is not internally lit, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And this, on the restaurant, we see the one wall sign, but I believe that there was another sign on the entranceway that may be covered up right now. So is that correct?
I believe they took that down.
Okay, sorry, so
Yes.
that will not be,
That will not be there.
okay. That's it, thank you.
You're good?
No, I'm good.
Vice Chair?
I was just going through the internally lit. Joan, you didn't have anything to say about that?
I was leaving it to you.
Well, no,
Go ahead. I might jump back in. But go ahead.
well, I just want to point out in design standards for the signs, I mean, I understand, I think we all appreciate that you're relying on approvals and prior approvals and prior uses dating back 25 or so years. But we also understand that the fabric has changed around, disfavoring the applicant. I understand that, disfavoring the community. So I think, you're approaching this with good intentions. I'm taking you at that. So one section in there, signs, whether portable, permanent, or temporary, shall not be displayed or erected within the street right of way, nor shall any sign be located so as to interfere with traffic, visibility, or constitute traffic hazard. So while I appreciate that you have an approval for the electronic sign, you no doubt recognize that that's atypical for Sparta, as well as internally lit signs are atypical for Sparta. And so I would just kind of ask that prior to paying more earnest money towards that, perhaps you could maybe explore if there was an alternative that might still give you the wayfinding that I think you're looking for your tenants, but may also integrate more cohesively with your multi-tenant site, and just kind of, I understand you care about your property, you want it to look good. And so I'm just curious if you'd be willing to explore, for instance, like halo lit, backlit signage that you're proposing in the Sparta Mediterranean cuisine side of the wall that's replacing the Casa Capri. It's just, we've seen that in other locations. People seem to respond well to it. So I understand, and maybe this is a good time to explore it because you're wrestling with this LED sign. I completely understand that you might have this eagerness to keep that because for the restaurant, of course, you'd want to show kind of daily specials changing. But I'm sure Dory's office could help you. There is actually a portable sign ordinance, or section in the code, which allows for a portable sign to be put out where you could change that. It's a modest fee and you could put in, the specials for the day, and it's kind of more quaint than just the LED sign. So I don't know. If you're willing to explore that is all I'm asking for. I recognize that this is a challenging site. I looked at the history in the PCED and see kind of what has been referenced in regards to Wilson Drive, and kind of there was this plan a quarter century ago and it didn't come to fruition. So that's it for now.
Right?
No questions.
No questions.
No questions.
Okay, one more.
Okay.
To what you're saying, Rob. The sign on the wall sign on the restaurant is 24 square feet. 20 square feet is the limit in the PCED zone. So that would require a variance or going back to 20 square feet. Could you go back to 20 square feet?
If that's what's in the zoning, absolutely. I'm willing to do that. That is the sign on the building, the
Yes.
Mediterranean, no, I'm willing to do that.
And I think if we're at that point in the planning stage, if there is a way that we can do a groundlet sign at 20 square feet, we'd like maybe to leave that open-ended, that if we were granted approval this evening, that we can explore that option and not have to come back before the board with a groundlet sign if it works. Is that something we can do?
So you're talking about groundlet where the old
Yeah,
Costa
like you're
Capri?
suggesting, Mr. Otto,
Yeah.
if the sign hasn't already been started or created, because we
Right.
didn't get approval, so it wouldn't have been, but if we can explore that option, it turns out to be a cheaper option, can we, instead of having to come back here because we are currently providing internally lit sign, can we not have to come back here for a ground lit sign?
So, I would just, the applicant's familiar with her site, familiar presumably with Route 15. Take a look at some of those groundlit options. I assume that she'd be going for kind of a better case scenario than some of the ones I've seen.
Yeah.
Just, there's another section in the code which keep your ground lighting neat and clean and all that. So I would just kind of be careful with that, but I would be okay with it. Probably the other thing that I might request if we're if we're having this conversation is just to consider the color temperature of closer to 3,000 Kelvin versus the 5,000 daylight. And I think it would work well with the aesthetic of kind of your little like mini health and eatery village that you have going on here, is to kind of have a warmer tinted light, understanding that when you do go with the lower Kelvin lighting, that there is a cost, the output being the same in visibility. So, but EM signs could walk you through that.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, I think, again, kind of just trusting the applicant, good faith. I'm okay with kind of proceed in good faith, and we'll respond accordingly.
Rob, if I could, if you say, as council suggested, the 20-foot building restaurant sign now conforming, that it would be permitted to have a ground lit sign as per, let's say, the board engineer's approval. That would, I think everyone would be comfortable with that. That way they don't have to come back if they use a ground lit sign.
Yeah, and maybe Mr. Simmons could advise as to kind of maybe more permanent ground lighting, best practices, best options.
Sounds fine to me.
And then I would just add this because it's kind of come to my attention. With your signage, it sounds like the smoke shop is closing at 9 p.m.
Correct.
So just if you do go with warmer lights, and when does your restaurant close? 11?
11.
So you may just consider, again, I think a restaurant, you don't want to be blinding people with daylight. But from the street, if you have the exterior lights being 3,000 Kelvin, if you have stuff that's visible from the roadway, you want to kind of try to approach balance on the lights.
I sure will.
So.
Okay.
Also, of course, the mic's dead.
No, sorry.
Also, I did speak with the tenant for the smoke shop, and if the board would rather, they'd be willing to put blinds in as opposed to the tin, if you'd rather have blinds there. So it's up to the board which way they choose, but the tenants do want to accommodate the board's concerns, so they will put blinds in if required.
It's definitely a viable option. Okay, so we will open it up to public for questions regarding this portion of the testimony.
Jenny Derricks, Tap into Sparta. I'm sorry, Mr. Perot, not to beat this to death, but I haven't been able to find in the files that Mr. Beckendorf or his firm has filed a new application to cure the one of May 12th, 2025, referring to rules Rules 121, Rules of Court 121, and also Opinion 13 from the Committee of Unauthorized Practice of Law. Now, of course, I realize that anything of this nature impacts probably, possibly unfairly the applicant. I totally understand that, but there are rules for a reason. There are laws for a reason. There are rules of conduct. Unauthorized practice of law, which begins with the submission of an application, is not cured when a licensed attorney later appears at a hearing, and this is of planning or zoning.
Sure.
I'd just like you
I'm
to.
sorry, I didn't get your name.
Jennifer Derricks.
Jen, thank you. I appreciate that. So generally what happens when an attorney takes over for either an applicant or an attorney that files the original application but doesn't complete the application, the township asks us to submit the second page or the first page of the application, depending on which one requires proof of the new counsel. So we generally do that as a common practice, which we did in this application
I
as well.
started my comments. I said I couldn't find it in the
Okay,
file.
yeah, we generally do submit that first or second page.
You're saying
depending
you
which-
generally do, but did you hear?
Yeah, we
Okay.
did.
I just
Yeah.
couldn't find it. Thank you.
It's common practice.
Okay, because the most recent documentation was September 12th of this year, which is very recent. So.
I unfortunately, I had,
Can you produce a copy
yes,
of it?
a copy of that will be produced.
So it's a retroactive cure, essentially?
I don't know. Again, this is what we've always done when we stand in for an applicant. Generally what happens is an applicant will be an LLC. They will file an application. They'll come to the board will be like, you can't file this application, you're an LLC. So they'll get an attorney. The attorney will then have to submit either the first or second page, depending on what the application requires, with the notice of the new counsel for that meeting, in that. But we don't have to provide a new notice. And this, I think this matter was carried without further notice, but we'll provide a copy of that.
So I guess the follow-up question then for me is if we haven't acted on this, we're in time to act, maybe it's carried. But then was the,
To be fair, I didn't know about anything that Jen is talking about until right now.
yeah.
Board, I'm satisfied that counsel is here. He's a licensed attorney in the state. There has been no determination by the board under the old attorney. So the ethics cases are pretty clear that you look to the attorney, not the applicant. If the applicant was part of some type of
That's
conspiracy or
not my
wrongdoing.
allegation, Mr. Porro, and with due respect, that it's not that there was any misrepresentation by the applicant. I'm saying that the original attorney, that was done fraudulently, possibly, or unethically, or whatever the legal term for it is. There are opinions on it, and that the application, the original application dated May 12th, 2025, was submitted by a different attorney and has that situation been cured by current attorney?
Does it say what year that opinion is?
20,
The ethics opinion, a dash, a number, maybe the year, the number will help me on what year it is.
it doesn't have a year. It's the opinion 13, Committee of Unauthorized Practice. It is the opinion of the committee examined the application.
Was it, you see, I'm not familiar with that, but what I am, from my experience, if a application with, as counsel said, an LLC or a corporation needs legal counsel. So if that determination was such that the legal counsel was not certified or authorized, I believe that's what that's speaking to. We have here an applicant who has a licensed attorney before a decision has been made, and I think I'm not familiar with that opinion. I'll take a look at it, but it seems like a harsh.
Well, right, I understand that, but the original document for the application, upon which everything else is based at this body.
But let's step away from it. You have an application.
It
that
can be
has-
cured by having current counsel.
Right,
Right.
right. I believe.
And
it's
that's
been-
my question.
I believe it's been cured. I believe it's been cured.
Yeah, and I have the document here. It was submitted September 24th, 2025, referencing me as the attorney for the applicant.
Can I see
But
that?
that does that cure the original document?
Right, right. But Jenny, to your point, is the question, because I think we're trying to get the complete application date because it bears on PCED changes that have been made, uses that are disallowed in that site that would be,
And that's not even what I'm talking about. I'm just talking
Okay.
about the nitty-gritty of the legality of the application form
okay.
that was submitted on May 12th, the actual form that you guys have, that it's signed by an attorney inappropriately. And it can be cured, but certification of an attorney taking over isn't necessarily curing the
The
application.
entirety of the application.
And any other documents that have been submitted by the previous attorney. Witness the documentation submitted on September of this year. And that's why I'm asking, is the board relying on any documentation from an attorney who was not licensed? And that's not a little thing. I'm not speaking to the applicant's qualifications, Mr. Beckendorf's qualifications, none of that. I'm just speaking to the legitimacy of the founding documentation of this application. And I understand it's going to be, a problem for the applicant. I'm sorry about that, but there are rules for a reason. And I'm just asking that they be considered and that they be investigated.
So noted.
And I appreciate you bringing that up because I do have to rely on this in as much as the restaurant portion of this application and with the PCED use changes. I'm not certain what controls that date.
We also have relied on it because right in the report from Neglia and listing all of and probably Dave's too, I just happen to have this one in front of me, all the things that they have looked at, and it says attorney's memo for Sparta Mediterranean Cuisine prepared by Kevin Kelly and Megan A. Ward Esquire, dated April 10th, 2025. Then another one prepared by them March 19th, 2025. And a few other things that go through here, several of them. So that, to answer the question, it is in here.
I mean, on my letter, I just put a list of all the documents that were submitted. So at that time, that was the attorney. But I believe since then, we've established that they have a new attorney through their transmittal.
Right, I was just.
Yeah,
to
this isn't a
Jenny's
criticism
question-
of you. I think
No.
it's
Feels
simply
like it,
just
but
noting.
Yeah, no, I'm just explaining my letter and what it means.
As
And
you
then
should. No,
in
this is
addition,
correct. This is correct.
and then
But
I think
did we
Mr.
rely
Porro
on
also
any of
said
it?
it's an
Yes.
existing non-conforming use that's not being expanded upon. So for the use, it's a continued existing non-conforming use that Mr. Porro said that it's been essentially grandfathered in.
1975, Mr. Porro.
That's, okay. Thank you.
Okay, so from a legal standpoint, how do we proceed?
All right, so very interesting issues, and as I said before, if someone in the audience wanted to challenge this and bring a prerogative writ, they could raise these issues. The applicant has already stated they wish to proceed at their own risk, and counsel, as far as the issue of defective counsel in the past, are you also willing to proceed at your own risk?
Yes, we are.
And, I would say to the board that there are ethics opinions that say that you should not blame the client for the sins of the attorney. If you look at the four corners of the application that was submitted, and let's say there's 99 lines, and let's say there's 100 lines that are filled out by an applicant, the attorney name submitting may be one of the 99, and that would be cured by the new attorney stepping in. So the substantive issues that you heard tonight by way of the three witnesses and the exhibits and the testimony would control on this application. And again, if someone was to challenge it, I could be wrong, but I'm satisfied the board has jurisdiction. Thank you.
I have one follow-up question, I'm sorry. In regards to, just as we're talking about, the planner had said that it's non-expanded use of a pre-existing.
That's what Mr. Porro had stated.
Okay, you restated Mr. Porro's point, right. So I guess my question then would be for the smoke shop, that's retail that we're calling it, and I believe it was a cellular phone shop, and then it was computer repair, and maybe there were some changes in between. Is there a presumed expansion of use? I understand it was a larger operating space when it was a computer facility, but I guess there's no way to know. Like, it's not so granular that you would say, it's just retail, right?
But the use changed from office
Well, that's,
to retail.
okay.
But the use is already existing on the site. Like, they're already they already have their approvals from the zoning department.
All right, so we're relying on it's an estoppel.
Yeah, it's my
thing.
understanding that the zoning department has granted a zoning certificate. The applicant is up and running based upon that. Whether that was in error, that would be that same third party could have a prerogative writ. But before you here today is an application by Sparta Smoke Shop and the Mediterranean Cuisine. You have before you three exhibits: A1, the facilities plan; A2, the floor plan; A3, the signage. You have numerous testimony that is here that I would go through if you were on the conditions. So as far as, and the applicant already said, their engineer, if there was some larger expansion that changes the footprints of the pre-existing buildings, that would be a formal site plan that they'd have to come back. But again, today, if you look on your public notice of Planning Board number 25-736, it says Sparta Smoke Shop and Mediterranean Cuisine, minor site plan. That's what we're here today to review.
And within the packet, there's a zoning permit from November 20th, 2024, saying that the smoke shop was getting approval to be located there. And if you look at the ordinance, I was able to find it was memorialized in February of 2025. So this approval would predate the change in the ordinance.
For the smoke shop.
For the smoke shop, yes.
For the restaurant, but the restaurant's like for like.
Motion, do we have the?
Okay.
Yeah, so given the legal advice that we've heard and the fact that the applicant is willing to proceed at their own risk, I think we are capable at this point of bringing it back to the dais for a motion and a vote. So, Mr. Poro, if you wouldn't mind crafting that motion.
Before you do, I'd like to recommend that we break this into two parts because they're very different. The smoke shop is going to have certain conditions attached to it. And I am very concerned about the traffic that is going in and out of a restaurant, 52 seats, turning over, 52 more, 52 more. It's a totally different animal. So I have concerns about that one, so I'd like to treat each one separately.
Can we do that? Don't know if we have the facility to do that, given
We
there's
can.
one application.
In my opinion, you could. You could. Could be one resolution with two different conditions. So I do the resolution, and I say the conditions as to Smarter Smoke Shop and the resolution as to Mediterranean. So it could be one resolution with two separate parts, so it's not a problem.
Okay, are we okay with separating?
Okay. Then you can.
Okay, so Mr. Poro, if you wouldn't
All
mind
right.
crafting the motions accordingly.
Sure. Group, what you have before you is an application of PB number 25-736, Sparta Smoke Shop and Mediterranean Cuisine for 514 Lafayette Road, Block 12008, Lot 17, located in the PCED zone. Request for minor site plan approval. In support of the application, the applicant had three witnesses: their engineer, the property owner, and the smoke shop owner. In further support, they had three exhibits: A1, the facilities plan; A2, the floor plan with parking calculations; and A3, the signage plan. The board discussed the if minor site plan approval was granted. There are certain conditions that are separate and distinct with regard to the smoke shop and to the Mediterranean cuisine, which I'm just going to list all of the conditions we discussed, and then in the resolution, I will break them out accordingly. But from my notes, if you were to approve, the first condition would be subject to the facilities plan A1, subject to the floor plan A2, and subject to the signage plan A3. Also subject to the testimony that was given by their three witnesses. In addition, there would be the septic tank shall be pumped and inspected for integrity prior to a C of O being granted. In addition, sign lighting shall be as per the testimony, and there was a recommendation of a 3,000 Kelvin versus 5,000 Kelvin preference, but that is not a condition. But there is a condition that compliance with the prior site resolution signage, and that was discussed. In addition, Fire Protection Bureau approval, and that would be any other local, state, or county regulatory agency. In addition, a condition of the 6 parking spaces, 3 of which are stacked, would be dedicated to the employees and the operation of the transport company and the physical therapy location. In addition, there was a discussion on the smoke shop, whether there be 3 designated spaces. I did not put that as a condition, just in that if people driving in, the restaurant owner or operator would be prohibited then from parking there. But if you want me to put that as a condition, 3 designated spaces at the smoke shop, I will. There was an agreement on the smoke shop, though, that one of the parking spaces would be designated for the smoke shop employee as set forth on the site plan. I think the chairperson brought that. In addition, the confirmation that there required 50 spaces has been conformed with. That's not really a condition, but it is set forth on the testimony. There was discussion that prior to a CO being certificate of occupancy, an as-built plan would be submitted to the board engineer for his approval. And there was discussion the as-built plan would reflect the current tenancies and the dedicated parking spaces as reflected on the record, such as the handicap spaces, employee parking, and the like. There was testimony as to deliveries that I'll make reference to, and the off-hour delivery requirement. There was testimony also that there would be traffic flow painting, directional arrows, as per the board engineer's recommendation. We also had testimony as far as the 20-square-foot building signage, that it could have ground lighting if, as per the board engineer's approval. In addition, the smoke shop would be approved to have tinted windows as to not have a clear vision of the glassware paraphernalia as discussed on the record. And then again, the lighting of the signage as per the plan and prior approvals. That's what I have in my notes.
And I'm sorry, did you mention that there was either going to be tint on that window or blinds?
Tint or, I will add or blinds. Good, thank you.
Blinds you can open and close. Tinted, I think, would be
The
all
other
the
thing
time.
is, and just for you guys at the smoke shop, from a security point of view, I mean, that way your employee can see if someone's outside up to no good, as opposed to blinds, which doesn't cuts off their view. They're gonna have a better vision of outside than someone seeing in. So I would say to stick with the tinted.
Great point.
I just want to include that for the tinting, that the purpose is to obscure the glassware. So I know it's silly to point it out, but if it's just tinted and looks cool, then that's not really serving the purpose. So it's a purpose-driven condition to.
Tinted to a darkness that obscures.
I'd like to make a motion then to approve the smoke shop with these conditions.
I'll second.
Roll call
Now,
vote?
just so, Joan, you're saying smoke shop alone,
Yes,
and then you want a separate vote for the,
correct.
there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay, so,
That was Joan and then Birgit.
correct.
Birgit Bogler?
Can we get a discussion? I'm just trying to understand why do them separate as opposed to as one.
Because my feelings are different on both.
Okay, there's nothing, vote roll call.
Birgit Bogler?
Yes.
Matt Burke?
Yes.
Ron Day?
Yes.
Joan Furman?
Yes.
Ernie Reichstad?
Yes.
Christine Dunbar?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Robert Otto?
Yes.
And Chairwoman Celeste Luciano?
Yes.
Okay, now would be proper if someone move approval on the Mediterranean cuisine restaurant with the conditions I set forth.
Yes, I'll make a motion.
I'll second the motion.
Birgit Bogler?
Yeah.
Discussion.
Oh.
I'd just like, I am concerned about the health, safety, and welfare of the traffic there and of the people trying to turn in and out of there. I don't think that the restaurant is the best use for that, particularly since the uses have changed. And I think, as I said, with the health, safety, and welfare, that's my priority.
Discussion.
Anyone else?
I think that Joan makes an excellent point, and I have very similar concerns. I think that these concerns hopefully will be addressed by the conditions that we will be setting forth in the resolution. And looking forward, hopefully, those conditions make for safe entry and exit, both onto the property as well as keep drivers on 15 north and south safe. But I think that I think it's worth a try. And time will tell whether or not it's sufficient.
Anyone else?
Nope.
I guess we're ready for a roll call.
Birgit Bogler?
Yes.
Matt Burke?
Yes.
Ron Day?
Yes.
Joan Furman?
No.
Ernie Reichstad?
Yes.
Christine Dunbar?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Robert Otto?
No.
Chairwoman Celeste Luciano?
Yes.
Passes.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
I need to vote for both.
Do we need a certain amount of votes?
Okay.
I saw.
In the interest of moving forward.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
got
you. In the interest of moving forward, we have a few resolutions that we need to address. I know I'm modifying the agenda slightly, but I'd like to get these addressed, especially since the board hasn't really had a good opportunity.
Hey, Dan, can you just wait a couple minutes? Just wait a couple minutes. Don't leave.
To review everything appropriately.
Yes, Board, and I apologize for the lateness of the resolutions. The two if you recall, Alpine was pretty straightforward. That's the public school. It's not one of my best resolutions, but to be candid with you, we're merely stating that we supported it. I made reference to the board planner and board engineer's recommendations, and it is obviously subject to the referendum. So if you look at that resolution, I put specifically at the end of the resolution that the final plans continue to encourage environmental initiatives such as the rain gardens, the green roof, solar panels. The board appreciated the proposed overall school educational facility improvements, heightened security, and fostering of sound public health, safety, and welfare surrounding our Sparta students. And the board did express the prerequisite understanding and need for public referendum approval. But prior to that, I said that the board engineer and board planner, that the report should be incorporated in the applicant's final plans. So if, it's pretty straightforward if someone would move that and second.
I'll make a motion to,
I'll second the motion. Chris?
Okay.
Matt Burke,
Yes.
Ernie Reichstad,
yes.
Ron Day,
Yes.
Joan Furman,
Yes.
Rob Otto,
Yes.
Birgit Bogler,
Yes.
Celeste Luciano.
Yes.
And then the other resolution, gang, that was the Taekwondo. Another pretty straightforward one, in that we're dealing with the tenant on a pre-existing building. So I went through on that, and if we go towards the end, the conditions, strictly built in accordance with the plan was number one. Number two, that the amended site plan is going to continue with the pre-existing 2003 site plan controlling approvals, because again, this is just one tenant, and that compliance with our engineer and planners reports, and that the taxes are current and subject to any other governmental approvals. So again, this is just a tenant approval subject. Also, the hours I attached to the resolution, I think that was of importance, and the number of employees. So that's also a condition of the approval.
Can I just ask you a question, Ken? I agree with you, and thank you for putting in the hours here. But is there a reason that is not part of the resolution before the signature lines? Because to me, that's a very important part. If they can't just change hours. And any-
You're absolutely correct. I ran out of time for tonight's meeting, but I did incorporate number 5. The tenant, Mr. Lee, explained the proposed concord hours and customer parking as a condition of approval, and I put C, attached hours of operation submitted to the board. So I kind of
There it
slipped it in. But you are correct. If I had more time, I would put it line by line.
So could we,
I'm comfortable the way it is. It's a tenant.
you don't want to include at the table in 5?
Addendum. You're
All right.
referencing
It'll take-
addendum.
These things get scanned and then no one finds the
Yeah,
attachment.
I specifically recited and referred to it,
Okay.
so.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Birgit Bogler,
Yes.
Matt Burke,
Yes.
Joan Furman,
Yes.
Ernie Reichstad,
Yes.
Christine Dunbar,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Rob Otto,
Yes.
and Chairwoman Celeste Luciano.
Yes.
All right, gang.
Okay. Moving right along. I know we've got some brief updates. We won't have anything from town council, as Councilman Scott is not here. Chris, do you have anything for environmental?
Well, I've been away, but I do have an announcement to make. We're having the very first ever Baseline Salt Snapshot event, and that's on October 12th from anytime from 10 to 2. You could stop by, and what we're trying to get a handle on is the health of our groundwater and our aquifer in terms of the salt concentration. And so we're going to give you, if you stop by with your kids or friends, we're going to give you 2 bottles. We're going to give you a location to drive out to. It's kind of like a scavenger hunt. Hopefully the creek will be running at that point, and that water will all be coming from the aquifer. And so you'll fill your bottles and then come back to us at the library, and we'll test the water with a conductivity meter and with a little, tab for the concentration. And then this is a project that's in coalition with the Stroud Research Institute, and it's being done regionally wide.
Oh, wow.
That's on, for us, it's on Sunday, the 12th of October. Anytime stop by in front of the library, Sparta Library, from 10 to 2 p.m.
There's a rain date, right? Because if it rains, that's not a baseline.
Well, if it's really raining and the water is diluted and the rivers start to flow, then it is what it is. We do have a rain date that we can inform you. And you can go right on the EC website under events, and you can register yourself, so we can make sure we have enough bottles for you, and, and, you know, we have a site for everyone that comes.
Great.
Christine, could you put a notice, could you send something to the Sparta Independent? Because that way it'll get out in the Thursday edition. I don't know if it'll be in time for next week. Well, I think it could be.
Gotta get out the Jen, too.
Yes.
Oh, yes, well, we have Jen here, so we're covered, right?
Well, but the Sparta Independent goes into the mailboxes. It's the saturation newspaper, so people actually have a physical copy of it.
Well, the Environmental Commission doesn't really appreciate the paper waste, maybe. I'm just kidding, I'm just kidding.
All right.
But so we're just, you know, with these, so we've had so many great events and everything. We're just right now, I think, in the process of developing a marketing strategy. So thank you for your suggestions. Hopefully, you know, we can even get it perhaps on the town board, you know? For everybody. Yeah. that'd
Or
be
there's also the RAV system that we used for the survey for the master plan. All right.
That's all I have. I'll have to turn it over to Rob, who's been at the environmental commission meetings.
No, I think you covered it.
Rob, anything for minor site plan?
Yeah, I wanted to say a little something. It's not going back to 1845, and it's large font, but I just looked, so, and because I'm not good on my feet, but, all right, I'll just start. While I may be relatively new, I very quickly saw how complex the process of planning in Sparta is, and all due respect, I do not think many members of this committee or even of the governing body appreciate or understand the time, effort, and diligence undertaken during proper and complete planning or minor site plan application review, both as evidenced by the unprecedented removal of our prior chair and in deference to our professionals and employees. So my own background does not allow me to approach important things in the superficial way, so I kind of need to understand why and how in order to feel comfortable making determinations which have consequence and weight in this community. When I joined this body in January and then minor site plan, I got kind of snookered into that. I tried to learn the process and understand the roles of those involved, from applicants, volunteers, employees. And I observed, and after a month in, it was pretty apparent that there were issues where normally I'd recommend basic corrective actions. I tried expressing my observations as simple concerns, then framed these as requests, and then settled into kind of a variation of this frustrated but impotent refrain like you're hearing now. And so I've also found myself the subject of mischaracterizations. So, you know, I feel that I'm careful to operate within the bounds of my role as a volunteer. I'm seeking to preserve a valuable pathway for an applicant which serves the business community. That's the minor site plan subcommittee. However, I do not feel that these efforts are supported by the governing body directly or indirectly, based on some recent comments. If we remain guided by the code, in fact, the role of planning board members is to, quote, assemble data on a continuing basis as part of a continuous planning process, and that's chapter 18-3.2 G6. There's many other related things in that section, but I feel that we should seek out new information and improve our processes. We are beholden to the rules codified within our town from prior master plan, prior ordinances, and subject New Jersey municipal land use law. So we desperately need these updates in order to properly carry out and efficiently actually carry out our role as a planning board rather than as a board that simply reacts. We owe it to the community that we serve to learn the code, take our guidance from the code, and where appropriate, update the code to improve our process and in light of the natural process of, you know, iterative improvement. So we've heard from our governing body, from the Chamber of Commerce, from the Business Development Group, from the community that we're not business friendly, yet when we seek to make small common sense changes to evolve or streamline or simply update the process, When we take lessons learned from literally the front lines, minor site plan subcommittee, when we are directly engaging with applicants to in effect plan, we are observed as not filling the narrow, extremely limited definition of our roles that we should be simply voting. Instead, we're just simply reacting to applications and accepting whatever may come our way and not asking important questions. So many moons ago, I begged a prior town council that we need to stay abreast of the current guidance. We need to research national regional development pressures. We need to check in with our local business owners, our property owners, our stakeholders to figure out the best use of their land in balance with our community and help them make mutually beneficial decisions in full view of the public. In hearing that, I realize now that I should have been begging the planning board at this time since that's actually their purview. I understand planning is a balancing act of a community in constant flux. And then just one related final point, we're talking about canceling an upcoming meeting due to no application. So ergo, at this time, we are only utilizing our professionals and our volunteer time and our taxpayers' money to review applications. If we're able to meet and work through our processes, great, but obviously I've not had the opportunity to do that. If time is money businesses, and I've talked to business owners, why shouldn't we get a little bit more money in escrow to allow us to involve professionals earlier in the process before we just simply react with our local knowledge? This might reduce the time to review, which would probably end up being actually business friendly. Thanks.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
Very well said.
Yeah,
And you're not the only one who's been
Well, I couldn't
mischaracterized.
sleep a couple nights ago after I finally watched something, and I just jotted that down.
You should consider that, sending that as a letter to the editor. I think it would be very valuable for that to get a wider
Well,
spread.
So I think that hopefully the result, and this is not me going on another tirade, is just that, with the master plan update, it will be sorely needed. And so hopefully we'll resolve that if we're really done with that in June 2026.
And we will find that out, bringing me to the master plan subcommittee update. We will find out
For that, the
what.
subcommittee, since we're still on the minor site plan subcommittee.
Sure.
We have minutes in front of us. At the last meeting, I specifically asked if these, and Ron brought it up first, but I specifically asked if they are included somewhere. And Dora, you said they're included, attached to the minutes. I went on the Agenda Center and I went through everything in 2025 and 2024, and I could not find them attached. Is there another place? Because,
There is not. We've attached them in our book in our office. We'll
but
have
it's
to
not for the
attach them.
public to see, and, if
No,
we're
they
doing
are.
minutes.
Actually, anybody from the public can come on in and they can request to see anything that we have in our office under Oprah, but we will have to go back and upload them, because they're not all there. That's correct. We'll go back
So
and
for the
upload
times at
everything
the end
else.
of the month when we do approve them,
Yes.
if you go back and you attach them to the actual minutes that are on the Agenda Center, then people will know what is happening. And I know you had a concern, so if you want to just add anything.
I missed it tonight, my fault. I thought when we did the July 16th, we were going to have something attached, but, maybe, I don't want to go back and undo that, but if we can get a set of minutes at the next meeting and have the minor site plan subcommittees attached to that, and that way we can put it out to the public at the next meeting, I think that would be a good option.
I believe the reason why there wasn't anything attached to the July 16th is because the July 4th meeting, we didn't have one.
Okay.
It was canceled. So then the July 16th would have bumped to the first meeting in August.
So that makes sense. So I think the goal is, at the next set of minutes, there will be a set of minutes from the minor site plan subcommittee attached to it that we can post as part of the public site.
That was actually one of the things I was going to bring up under other board business. Yeah, I hadn't hit that yet, but thank you for
And
bringing that
I
forward.
think you also suggested that December, at the end of the year, so December 2024, if we can attach the subcommittee minutes to the December minutes.
Sure.
Then we have at least a year that we can see in full for 2024.
2024, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Since we're on minor site plan, I was not informed that tonight's minor site plan subcommittee meeting was canceled, and I was standing outside the building at 5 minutes to 6, and the building was dark, it was locked. I thought that was strange. I gave it a few minutes. At 10 after 6, I called the chairwoman Celeste Luciano, and I asked her whether or not tonight was planning board. And that's when she informed me that Rob had canceled the meeting at some time after 5 o'clock, at which point I was already on my way here. The last time that I had checked the email that I use for planning board, it was stated that Alex Berardi was supposed to be at minor site plan tonight at 6:30. So I was here, I was waiting, and to say that I was annoyed that I had wasted my time is an understatement. So going forward, I would appreciate that everyone's time is valuable. We are all volunteers. We all have places to be. We all rearrange our schedules in order to do this work that we have volunteered to do. And if a meeting is going to be canceled, I would appreciate it that if it is outside of business hours, which this was, that a phone call be made so that people aren't, wasting their time. It was discourteous and unprofessional, in my opinion, the way
You're
that it was
absolutely
handled.
Right, and
So-
I was running late on something. I haven't, since I joined this board back in 2024, I have not missed a single planning board meeting. I have not missed a minor site plan subcommittee meeting. I have not missed a master plan subcommittee meeting. I was running very late today, and I couldn't make it. There was no quorum, and Raisha should have called you because it was that late, so.
I don't have,
Defense, excuse me, but it happened after hours? We leave at
No,
4:30?
no, it was
No,
4 o'clock,
It happened after hours? We leave at
4
4:30.
o'clock.
Rob, did you?
When
cancel
I
the meeting at
notified
4 o'clock?
Raisha and she
okay.
got
When
it.
did
But
you
All right.
cancel the meeting?
Can you hold on a second, please? Sorry. So an email went out at 4:31 based on when I saw a message.
Okay, we're gone by then. We shut down and we leave, so we didn't
Okay.
get that message.
Okay, but if I could, so I received a message, and Raisha received a message at 4:04 from Joan indicating that she was running late. And Raisha was presumably aware that Brian was not here, so 2 people is not a quorum.
So then there was a
So-
question as to what the statute actually read and said. So the statute was unclear on whether or not a meeting could be held with 2 people. So I actually had contacted Ken to ask him whether or not the meeting could still continue. And since I had texted you earlier in the day and had mentioned that since there wasn't going to be a quorum, that I was intending on kind of, coming in and observing and trying to, get a little bit more informed on what the disconnects were so that I could potentially help. So when having had that conversation with Ken, he had said that there was an opportunity at that point for me to have been the third. So until that information was acquired, which actually was acquired shortly after you had sent your cancellation email. So there was a cross in that information. And so we actually could have moved forward.
But Celeste, you could
All
not
right.
have voted. You didn't look
Hold-
at the
hold on.
applications.
That's why
Hold-
I
hold-
had
hold-
spoken with
Hold on
Ken.
a second. Can I, if I
That's
could?
why I had spoken with Ken.
So first of all, again, I talked about corrective actions. So if Birgit would like to provide her phone number, I sent an email at 4:31 to everyone after I had a chance to get what I got from Joan, which was that she was running late, and so it had to be canceled. So
With
I,
the CC to Raisha.
right. So, and so I believe that we had established, I thought it was understood that there was no quorum, and clearly we've found out with no quorum, we cannot take action. If there was technically potential for a quorum, had Celeste joined us, respectfully, we had a lot of applications to go through, and the people that are part of minor site plan subcommittee had already looked at those applications, were familiar with them, and we had an applicant who was scheduled to attend. I didn't even schedule it as chair. It was just the applicant was going to come in halfway through our meeting. So I made a call to cancel it. 4:31 email, and that is the only way that I can let someone know. Celeste, I let you know. I don't know if you have Birgit's phone number.
No,
but-
and I appreciate that. I'm just saying that for in your defense, it was a cross in information. It wasn't so that's where I'm going with that. It was just a disconnect and a cross in information
Well,
because it was late.
I get that, but Birgit, so you said you were here at 5, and so did you receive the 4:30 email? 4:31? Do I have your email correctly? Could you check?
Hey, guys,
Not
if
right
If
now.
I can, this may be better served at the next minor site plan subcommittee that
Right.
says, hey,
All right.
if this happens again, here's what we're going to do.
This
And
is,
everyone
this
agrees
is
to it.
extremely rare. We were
But
down
rather
one
than
of the
point
other
fingers here
members.
and which I know we're not doing.
Right,
But,
okay.
you know, I
When,
think
when
this-
I joined this
what about-
board, when I,
Ryan wasn't gonna be there either.
when I joined this board, I was given a list of names and addresses and phone numbers for every single member of this board. So everyone here does have my phone number.
All right, well,
Okay.
I'm not in the habit of calling people
have a
anymore for
secretary.
minor site plan. We're doing stuff in person. We got something from our secretary here about at 5 o'clock, that was breaking news. Stuff happens last minute. There are changes that happen last minute. I'm sorry that you didn't get the email, but I have a copy that the email was sent to you. So I don't know what to tell you, but I'm not
Rob, all I'm
comfortable-
asking for is that you
I
could have
provided you
called.
notification. So if you didn't get it, I'm happy to talk to you offline about it in regards to.
That won't be
having a-
I think
necessary.
that's actually a good idea.
In
So-
regards to having a quorum with Celeste, that's a separate
That's a separate
discussion.
issue, and that was the information that I had gotten from Ken. So we can talk about
I don't
that
think an
offline.
hour would have been sufficient to do what we needed to do with minor site plan, quite honestly.
Not necessarily disagreeing with you, but I'm saying that it might have been an option, or it's an option we can explore
I
going
don't think
forward.
it's an option because we didn't have
I'm
another
saying-
member of the
We can potentially explore going
Subcommittee.
forward.
But the intent is to review the applications prior to attending the meeting, so I'm not sure how you would have done that.
You would have been sitting in, not a member.
Respectfully, I got your email or your message at 2:30 on the day of saying, hey, I'm going to be stopping by minor site plan subcommittee meeting tonight. That's not a bad idea, but it wasn't much time. And then I got this. And so,
Well,
we're
my
just doing the
schedule-
best we can.
Yeah, my schedule changed and allowed me to actually help you based on the conversation we had previously.
Okay, well,
But
based on
again,
the conversation we had previously, you see that I went in a different direction
Which,
out of frustration.
I completely understand. So all
Celeste,
of
you're
that
free
aside.
to form a whole new subcommittee.
So guys, if I
sorry?
can,
You're free to form a whole new
No,
subcommittee.
that wasn't the point. Rob and I had a
Go ahead.
comment.
Yeah,
Okay,
Ron
wait a minute.
Ron
Joan.
made a good point, so let's just table this. and move
Exactly.
on.
Rob and I had a conversation that was completely separate from anything. Nobody was looking to make any changes. So I just want you to understand that it was to move forward and help things move forward, not.
Well,
not
if we
to-
make changes, would you have enough people to form a new subcommittee?
So,
'Cause it's getting,
My gosh.
Okay,
well,
so we'll discuss this at a
you don't
different.
Well,
want to
I
hear
think-
Jeanette, but you don't sit on anything and
To-
never have.
to be fair.
Oh, that's not true.
oh, wait a minute, hey,
Okay,
somebody.
I'm
put-
sorry.
I think
Let-
we're
I'm
finished
sorry.
here.
Let's finish.
I think we're
I'm
finished
sorry.
on this subject.
I'm sorry.
So moving forward on subcommittees, master plan subcommittee, which actually is important information. We, thank goodness, have secured the Sparta High School cafeteria for October 29th for a large-scale stakeholder meeting. Our next meeting for the subcommittee is on October 6th, on Monday, where we will be discussing the outline of that meeting, how that meeting will work for stakeholders. I would like the public to stay tuned and please be mindful that this is upcoming. This is your opportunity to become educated on what the master plan is intending to do. Give your opinion in detail in terms of where you'd like to see Sparta be in now and 20 years from now. So yes, also on the 6th, we will be working toward not just outlining that meeting in particular. We're also going to be looking at the schedule, the Gantt chart for work going forward and how that intends to proceed. We are also going to be starting to revisit the goals and objectives for the master plan work. So hopefully by the end of that meeting, we will have an outline in terms of a great timeline for completion of the work and a good lean in to goals and objectives moving forward. And that is everything that needs to be discussed for Master Plan Subcommittee. Now, we are going to move to the open to the public session for matters that are not on the agenda or related to a hearing
Are we going to do
or
other
an
board business?
application. Yeah, I think we've gotten past that because in the interest of time, the unfortunate circumstances, we would like to at least have the public or what's left of them have the opportunity to speak or ask questions for matters that are not on the agenda.
Sorry, you probably don't want to hear about this anymore, but this issue is, I think it's important to discuss, because every part of an application needs to be scrutinized properly and needs to be proper from the very beginning, which it's when most things flow from the legal notice. If the legal notice is not filed properly, that's an issue for the entire application going forward. I'm just going to leave it at that. Take a look at who filed the legal notice, and everything that flowed from that needs to be considered.
I sent an email, but it hasn't been 24 hours, so I'm not going to ask my question again.
Okay.
But in the interest of time, I'll give you guys 24 hours.
I appreciate that. Okay. So, Joan, now that that's been taken care of, if you'd like to move to other board business?
Well, actually, I am looking at the clock. I didn't realize, and, I would just, it got late and save everything for the next meeting and just make a motion to adjourn.
Yes, we also have an item on
And
here
seconded.
for executive session.
But in the
actually
interest of time, and it's late, and people have to work tomorrow,
will
get
be
up early.
tabled.
And we'll if we can table the other one
Yeah.
as well.
So,
It was seconded, so we need a roll call.
correct. So what I was trying to do was say that, for the record, on the agenda, we have an executive session that will be tabled for our next scheduled meeting. And we will move on to adjournment. May I have
Just
A
so
motion
it's,
and a
just so it's
second.
clear, I said unfortunately I have a conflict on the next board meeting. I don't think we have any applications on that meeting, but again, I could possibly get someone to cover. I prefer not to. We told that one applicant, so it's been carried to the other. So if you have a discussion whether you want to have a meeting in the.
Well,
next-
Ken, you and I actually had that conversation, so I'm not available either, so I think to your point, as to whether or not you wanted to encumber someone to try to get put on the schedule, I think it's probably in our best interest to cancel.
I'm not available, but I don't vote, and again, I can't make that meeting. Thank you.
So, all that having been said, let's move to an adjournment. There'll be a notification as to whether or not that meeting on the 15th will be canceled in upcoming days. Motion and second for adjournment, please?
I made a motion.
Okay, great.
Sorry.
All in,
I
made a second.
Rob was the
No,
second.
Birgit did
No,
it
I did.
earlier.
Oh, all right.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Are we offline? Yeah. Wednesday, right?